Hi, good morning. Welcome to The Big Issue. The Big Issue is your Saturday morning news and current affairs analysis program, your platform for incisive analysis and riveting conversation. My name is Selorm Adonoo. Like always, the show is live and interactive, and we're happy to have you join us with your text messages and WhatsApp messages. Send the WhatsApp messages to the numbers displayed on your screen, and we'll be happy to hear from you. It's 2 weeks to election. Exactly 2 weeks from today, election 2024 will be upon us. And today we are dedicating the show to following the campaign trail, analyzing polls. There have been a lot of infrastructure inaugurations here and there. What effect really do these have on the voter on voting day? We'll look at the data and matters arising. Parliament recall is being triggered. Why should Parliament sit at this time when indeed they are supposed to be on recess? Members of Parliament are campaigning in their constituencies, amongst other things. There's a new poll that says that Dr. Bawumia is leading, even though he hasn't crossed the 50% mark. We'll look at that, juxtapose that with other polls we've also seen that have put John Mahama in the lead, and see what the parameters have been and see what we can do from there. These are the issues we are doing this morning, purely political, purely electioneering. And we'll be happy to hear you speak. I'll take a short break. I'll return and then introduce my guests, provide some updates, and we'll get a discussion underway. This is The Big Issue. You're welcome.
Season, it's time to go big and go loud, because with GoTV, Bronya City. From match days and movie days to local stories, big little adventures.
Really?
It's unmatched entertainment for the whole family.
Yes.
GoTV brings the joy anytime, anywhere. Get your festive season sorted. Get GoTV.
Welcome back. This is The Big Issue. My name is Selorm Adonoo. Today, political issues really. 2 weeks to election. This is your election bureau, and we're happy to be your station of choice for all matters regarding campaign, election, and even to transition. All right, so there's been a number of inaugurations this week. There's been some polls this week suggesting that person A or person B is winning. There's been quite a number of issues on the campaign trail. Parliament there's been a recall of Parliament, at least triggered by Majority Leader Afenyo Markin. Others have said, why would you want to recall Parliament now? Why don't you go for election and come back? They want Parliament recalled the latter part of the month, when election will be like a week away. MPs ordinarily should be campaigning, and ordinarily by the calendar of Parliament, they should be on recess because they have to concentrate on their campaigns and a lot of other things. So we will look at all of that today. But just to provide some updates, we look at President Akufo-Addo this week, his latest wave of projects inaugurated, and from the iconic flyover, Flower Pot interchange to 80 transformative education projects and the much anticipated Tema-Mpakadan railway line. With just a few days to election 2024, the big question remains, will these infrastructural milestones sway the hearts of voters, or are Ghanaians looking beyond brick and mortar achievements in deciding the country's future? Let's turn our attention to Philip Nilate's report, and then Jude Mensah Duncan's report as well, which highlighted a number of projects inaugurated by the president.
President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo on Tuesday, November 19, commissioned the Flower Pot interchange in Accra. This significant infrastructure project aims to ease traffic congestion on the north and south corridors of the Tema motorway, enhancing connectivity and travel times for commuters. The Flower Port interchange features an 802-meter dual carriage viaduct with asphaltic concrete surfacing, 140-meter ramp from Shiashi onto the viaduct towards Airport Hills, and an 80-meter ramp connecting the viaduct to motorway towards Tema. The project also includes a new road through the old tunnel at East Legon, pedestrian walkways, a road furniture such as street lights and traffic signals. President Akufo-Addo at the ceremony to commission the Flower Port interchange noted that his administration has performed well in the road sector. He also urged all stakeholders and Ghanaians to safeguard the newly commissioned Flower Port interchange and ensure it serves its intended purpose.
Before today, the Flower Port roundabout faced overwhelming traffic, often burdened with up to some 5,000 vehicles per hour during peak times. Today we turn a page and offer a solution designed not only to resolve today's challenges, but also to anticipate tomorrow's demands. It will ease travel times, enhance the free flow of goods and services, and encourage economic vitality within the region. But let us remember, this project is one among many. From the northern savannas to the southern coastlines, and from east to west, we're building a new Ghana, one where roads, bridges, schools, and hospitals rise as symbols of a nation that works for everyone. It is fitting then to acknowledge that this administration has constructed more roads and interchanges than any other in our nation's history.
The Minister of Roads and Highways, Francis Asensu-Boakye, says he has directed the Bridge Maintenance Division of the National Roads Authority to establish a comprehensive maintenance system for all urban bridges, including the newly commissioned Flower Port interchange.
I have tasked the Bridge Maintenance Section of the National Roads Authority to institute a robust maintenance system for all urban bridges. This includes conducting regular inspection, structural repairs, and replacing any damaged components on time.
The Greater Accra Regional Minister, Daniel Nikwate Titus Glover, urged residents and municipal authorities to ensure the proper maintenance of the newly inaugurated Flower Port interchange to preserve its functionality and aesthetics.
I would like to urge the municipal assemblies, particularly Lejokugu and Ayawaso West Wogon, under whose jurisdiction this interchange falls, to ensure that this area is kept clean. Additionally, I don't want to see kiosks, and the chief executive should listen to me. We don't want to see kiosk containers littered all over there. It will destroy the beauty of this edifice that we all witness and commission today. Around this area, so that we can open up this area to make sure that we get the benefits. Let us work together to maintain the order and preserve the vital infrastructure.
The Ministry of Education, under the leadership of Dr. Yaw-Osei Educhum, has commissioned over 80 educational projects across Ghana's 16 regions. At the ceremony titled Education Transformation in Action, Dr. Educhum announced additional projects including the Accra and Woja STEM schools slated for inauguration on 2nd December 2024. The newly completed facilities include classroom blocks, dining halls, dormitories, public restrooms designed to improve educational access and conditions nationwide. During the event, Dr. Educhum applauded President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia for their leadership and dedication to addressing the nation's educational challenges.
We have a new vision for transformation of education, and a junior high school as a critical component. I've always seen junior high school as the weakest link in the education system. Why should we create a country where the poor locked up in inner city schools and villages don't get the opportunity to do engineering and do science because their grades on the BEC is so bad, and then when they get to the high school and they're even giving science, they don't do well because they've not been exposed to it. It's a new dawn.
The newly completed 97-kilometer standard gauge railway line connects 7 stations along the Tema-Impacadan route. This initiative is part of a broader strategy to phase out outdated narrow gauge rail lines, rail systems, and replace them with more efficient and modern infrastructure. The 2 diesel multiple unit trains procured at the cost of $4.2 million are specifically designed for the standard gauge railway and are expected to enhance passenger transport along the corridor. Speaking at the inaugural ceremony, President Akufo-Addo highlighted that this development will help ease the burden on road transport.
Since 2017, the Akufo-Addo government has placed railway development at the forefront of its agenda, recognizing it as a powerful catalyst for industrialization. By reducing our reliance on road transport for long-distance freight and passenger movement, this railway line will address several critical challenges that have hindered Ghana's development.
The Minister for Railway Development, John Peter Amewu, announced that the new project will reduce travel time from Tema to Impacadan from 3 hours to less than 1 hour.
As for the first time in the history of this country, government has procured 2 brand new modern diesel multiple units known as DMU units. Trains which are going to be used to commence passenger rail operation, which will lead to a significant reduction in the travel time from currently about 3 hours to under 1 hour.
The general manager of the Tema-Impacadan railway line, Engineer Daniel Okutu, outlined plans to ensure the project's maintenance and sustainability.
Because we want our staff to develop that culture, we have signed a 5-year contract with the supplier of the train, where they will be with us and they would work with our maintenance team, and then they become conversant with maintenance. So within the 5 years, we believe that they will work like the way they are supposed to work to maintain this train.
Hi, you're welcome back. So you had those reports from Jude Mensah Duncan and Philip Ni Latte on the inaugurations and the projects which were outdoored or were opened over the week. We understand quite a number of them will still be done in the weeks or days ahead. And these will mark President Akufo-Addo's final acts in office. So he will be busy, as you may know. All right, so to help us do the discussion today, we have Professor Sharif Mahmood Khalid, who's a member of the NDC's Communication and Finance Committee, Mussa Dankwa, Executive Director, Global Info Analytics, Professor Smart Sarpong, Senior Lecturer, Kumasi Technical University, Richard Ahiagba, my senior brother, whom I have not seen in many months, Director of Communications for the MPP, and Franklin Kujo, President Imani Africa. These will be my guests for this morning. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Prof, you are in studio here. Again, welcome. It's been a while. You've been on the campaign trail.
Yeah, I know.
How is the campaign?
Well, pretty much we're sending down the message to the good people of Ghana. Well, we are not distributing monies across the length and breadth of the country.
I don't know who is distributing
money.
I
haven't accused anyone of distributing money.
I don't know who is distributing money.
Yeah, but the good people of Ghana really know what's happening. So we are down on the grounds, feeding our information, sharing our manifesto promises, Women's Development Bank, the 24-hour economy, among others. So you've got multiple prongs to our campaigns. You've got General Mosquito leading one arm of it. Occasionally you have Ato Folson and Sami Genfi on the grounds. You've got a running mate who is so keen and glued to a retail campaign in a submarine effect that is touching every nook and cranny of this country, showing resilience. In the last 2 weeks, she's done she's done Northeast region, she's done Savannah, she's done Upper West and Northern region, right? So, and you have the flag bearer, in his grand style of mass campaigning, where he's touching lives and communicating the real issues of which the average Ghanaian needs to. You know, we have economic challenges, which we're trying to surmount, but as you could see, grandiose buildings, which you could compare to our import covers of a central bank are being commissioned on half-baked levels, all in anticipation. And you look at all these projects, they are a response to the good message, right? The Asempa, what do you call it, the good information that we are transmitting around the length and breadth of the country. And that's the response to which you'd see all of these rushed in commissioning projects that are not even up to maturity stages. Because you even look at the flower pot commissioning, it's laughable. I mean, overnight you put murals on walls and pillars of it. You know, you go around, drains are still not completed, slabs are not even, you know, close. How reckless could a president be when he even linked this to health and safety standards? That you say you've commissioned a road to be used, when health-wise and health and safety-wise, you're not even concerned about that.
What it means is that you're saying the roads are not complete. They're not entirely.
I mean, when we say a road, we're just not talking about putting asphalt on it, right? We
know in this country, open roads when
we're not talking about this country.
100%.
We are talking about standards, and that standards must be up, not what happens in this country. So
because it's Akufo-Addo,
it's not because it's Akufo-Addo. It's not because it's Akufo-Addo. I'm not even calling for 100% completion. There's still death traps all around these commissioners that is happening. You go spend money in a grandiose building of central bank headquarters, right, where it's supposed to losses, among other issues. You go to commission it when it's not even habitable on the very day you are commissioning it. What are you trying to tell the good people of Ghana? To me, that's an insult in and of itself. Why the rush?
I see.
In an election year. Are these the priorities? You're talking about commissioning 81 schools. Are they schools or existing buildings within schools?
Education infrastructure.
But you know, we should correct that impression.
No,
but it's out there that they are commissioning 81 schools. And that's erroneous. That needs to be but why? I mean, 81 infrastructure. And that is news for an education minister to rush off from Paris with the president to come and commission. When in the last 8 years, not a single TVET project has been added. You can check the records on the TVET website. Right. So there are all of these things there to juxtapose. Look at the e-blocks dotted around. You move around the country, not habitable.
They've completed some of the e-blocks.
Some are still at foundation levels and among other issues.
So they may not be able to complete all of them.
So does this 81 include some of the completed e-blocks?
Of course.
So where does the credit go to?
You know, so it is. I mean, credit as in who?
No, because the point is
they should go to the people of Ghana.
But they're making it
money.
No, if they're making it a political subject, yes, but they are making it.
No,
but you are making it a political subject by what they are doing, especially in an election year, and the rush to complete these projects that are not going to even be functional, because projects are meant, right, to be functional so people can use them. They become facilities or social facilities, among other issues, education, healthcare.
But Prof, you see, you're making a point as if this is novel. It's not. In 2016, we saw John Mahama.
Why are you going back to 2016?
No, because
progress. How many years today?
It's fair to contextualize
it's not fair.
It's fair to contextualize.
No, but to go back 20,
former President Mahama,
to go back
in 2016,
8 years,
inaugurated a Ridge Hospital.
Yes.
It took some months later before Ajiman Menu, the health minister, then, you know, operationalized it.
No, but you see,
and a few other facilities were like that.
You're not being fair. Even comparing a hospital project with ancillary facilities, how a hospital function in and of itself is different to roads among other issues.
The principle is that you say that the projects were not 100% complete.
No, it is not about the principle here. But why are you going to AGS? Behind.
No, I'm saying that because
should that be the standard?
No, not necessarily, but it's a way we behave. Even in our homes,
so we should make that the standard.
There are times we move into our newly built homes when it's not 100%.
Come on.
There are times you have a story building.
Your comparisons are quite interesting this morning.
You move to the ground floor. You move to the ground floor, hoping to complete the upper floor.
Yes, but you move there decently.
Yeah, but that's
not in danger, and that's not what is happening. Have you driven through the flower pot? Right, where the Shell fuel station used to be, the demolished one. It's a death trap.
Very well. Let me.
Safety. Yeah, you can let your cameraman zoom in and look at all of that.
That's fine.
You look at uncovered slabs, gutters, no slabs to cover them, among other issues, but you slap morals on them and say, okay, well, this road is commissioned. Let's go, let's have this. Is that what to do? So if you're, but I mean, I'm surprised you're actually going back to 2016. Move beyond this. There's no standard to this, please.
But I'm saying that it is.
Let's be fair.
It is a normal occurrence.
Do you not want the country to progress?
No, it's a normal occurrence.
Do you not want to up the standards?
And it will not be the last time we will have somebody inaugurate a project when it's not 100%.
Well, wait till that happens. Then you can
but it will not be the last time. I'm saying that we'll do it even in our private lives.
We've gone 2016 to 2020.
So you don't want any reference to 2016?
No, I'm not saying wait When another government comes in and they repeat, same, then you can have a contractualization, which may be a fair one. As of now, it's not a fair one.
Very well. Let me speak to Richard Ahiagba. Hello, Richard. Good morning. Welcome to the program. I was actually expecting you in studio, but we understand that you're unable to join in studio. But fine, thanks to technology and perhaps thanks to digitalization, we can connect via Zoom. How have you been doing?
So forgive me, my pictures are quite poor. Forgive me, it's a last-minute effort to try and get myself here. I had prepared myself to be in your studios this morning. But is it okay you can see me, or there's something I have to do?
Just let's talk. The pictures haven't come yet. I'm sure the pictures will come. The technical people. Okay, yeah, so the pictures have come. I think it's not bad. It's all right. We can manage.
It's not bad. Okay, good. Well, good morning to you. It's been a while.
It's been a long while.
Actually looking forward to being in the studio. So pardon me again that I couldn't be there.
All right, but let's start off this way. I hear you were in Kumasi. You've been to a few other places on the campaign trail. How is the campaign?
The campaign is doing well. As you would see, this is a historic campaign. The first time a candidate has toured literally every constituency. And by the time we would go to the polls on December 7th, you would find out that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the MPP campaign would have visited every constituency and had gone back to revisit some of them. And this, for me, is historic, demonstrating that the business of the people vested with power to select their leaders is alive and well. In other words, democracy in our country is alive and well. At least in the New Patriotic Party, we take it seriously. We believe that our power emanates from the people, and we're going to the people directly and telling them what our vision is in specific areas for them and asking for their consent to put us back at the Jubilee House to continue what good work we have started in 2017, 2018, 2019. Unfortunately, got thwarted by COVID-19, but then somehow we are back on our feet and building forward. This is the message we are taking across. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's message, as you would know, Selorm, is designed to make sure as a country in our lifetime there have been several developmental errors in the history of the world. But in this time, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has a vision to make sure that Ghana is not left behind, that we keep pace with the evolving fourth industrial revolution by making us policy ready, by making us leadership ready to be able to take advantage of this era. And I think that his vision for our country is what will stand. And if Ghanaians give us that mandate on December 7th, it would be the best decision that we have made for ourselves as a country since independence to put us on a path toward being in sync with the developments in the world. Now, I can tell you broadly the four categories of our messaging that has been put out there so far. If you look at our manifesto, there's a body of ideas that have been put out, which I believe, even if I were not a New Patriotic person or the director of communication of New Patriotic Party, I will tell you that these are good ideas. You look at the categorization, you have a specific set of ideas put forward to revitalize the economy. And that is on the basis of the fact that we hit the shock of COVID-19, which regressed our growth, which prior to COVID-19, the economy was growing at 7% average. So you get to a point where this thing has happened, you need to build back. And that's the part of policy ideas we have not gotten back, not gotten from the NDC. And I hope that my brother in your studio from the NDC side will tell us, and somehow you'll get him to explain what in the name of God they mean by the 24-hour economy today, so that we can all. But we have not heard from them, Selorm, honestly, what their plan is to regenerate Ghana's economy if they were in charge, and where we have gotten to now, where the economy is on a path of growth, how they're going to sustain that growth, and what sort of ideas and policy proposals they have to drive our economy forward. They have not told us that, but Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has put forward an extensive policy idea to revitalize our economy, and those are straightforward ideas that, if you look at it on the face of it, stands the test of any analysis to say that you can actually drive development with these policies. In addition to that, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's ideas for Ghana moving forward, or Ghana's next chapter, as we put it, is technological advancement. And again, this is one of the reasons you just referenced, that we cannot be left behind. For the difficulties I had today, for which reason I cannot be with you, we have access to technology, but we need to expand the scope and access to all Ghanaians and ensure that we can work remotely, that we can achieve the blessings of technology to drive our development forward. So Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has a framework, a technological advancement platform that will keep driving Ghana forward and ensure that we are not left behind in this fourth industrial race. And also there's a broad educational policy and skill development proposal that is being put forward in our manifesto, which will be going into the details of those once we get past this introductory level, that will guide to transform Ghana's education. You heard the Minister for Education talking to you about one of the key things that we need to do to advance STEM education. It's one of the key things that has to be done is in terms of infrastructure is being done. Some of the new school buildings that are being put forward, if you see them, it's just mind-boggling. It is not your traditional rectangular classrooms that are being built. We're building the 21st century classrooms where, when young people and their parents see their children going to school, there will be some inspiration about public education. That is there. The TVET program, the STEM program to ensure that Ghana builds its human capacity for 21st century competition, that is there. So in addition to that, finally, the fourth pillar I want to talk about is the health and social protection bit of our platform. And Selorm, this is unprecedented. The hospitals that are being built, it is my hope that Ghanaians will agree with us, will agree with me to say that let's return Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to the Jubilee House, such that we can go on and complete all these 111, initially now, but 114 hospitals that are being built all at the same time. Unprecedented. It's not happened. Yes, the goal was to complete them sooner, but it has been some challenges that has slowed down the progress of work. But all the same, these projects are continuing. I have seen them. I'm sure, Selorm, you may have driven along one road or the other and found them in the Volta region. Just recently, I was at Vedakba and I saw what progress is being made there. And I can tell you, Selorm, that hospital could possibly be commissioned as soon as practicable, and it will help tremendously. And altogether, I think the projection is those hospitals will bring in jobs to the tune of 160, 170,000. And that, for me, in measuring them in terms of jobs is good, but in terms of access to healthcare is fundamental. And, following my
just to query that a bit, you said that the Avedakpa facility, for example, could be inaugurated as soon as practicable. As soon as practicable is quite vague. As soon as practicable means what? I mean, before the end of the year, sometime next year, 2 years, 3 years later? Because, of course, we've seen facilities from 2016 which have still not been completed. So what do you really mean by as soon as practicable, the Avedakpa facility will be completed?
Yeah, I'm speaking in context relative to the Avedakpa project, the one district, the district hospital there. I've been there, and what I mean by as soon as practicable is that the rate of work much of all the infrastructure work is done. The reason I say practicable is the furnishing of it, the installation of necessary medical equipment to actually open it. Because you can't, once you finish the building, that's just the first step, but then the other installations and things that must come will also be the next phase of it. But as I meant to say was that the building itself should be completed in real good time here, and the next phase will be just to put the equipment in, and it can be operational. But the good thing is that at one point in time, a government saw a need and made the necessary investment, and these 114 hospitals are being built across this country. I agree with you with what you have said, and that's the reason why Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the NPP ought to be retained so they can see to the completion of this project. The National Democratic Congress will abandon this in a hurry. They won't even go to the site if we make the mistake ever to give them power. So, Selorm, I tell you that this campaign is spirited. This campaign is conscious of who the owners of power is, and those are the Ghanaian people, registered voters, who would make a decision on December 7th.
Very well. Yes, how is Dr. Bawumia navigating the question of the economy? Like many have said, and I'm sure you've answered this question at many places, many times. He came in as the guy to help fix the economy you said was bad in 2016. But it so happened that he has overseen or superintended over an economy that is even worse than he inherited. The indicators are there to see. Inflation, it took around 15-16%. Inflation went up to 54, it's now around 21-22%. Exchange rate, which was a serious matter, and he made an iconic statement on that if the fundamentals are wrong, the exchange rate will expose you. You know, he took it from 4.2, now we are northwards of 17 cities. I don't know how he's able to explain that away. Job creation, I mean, he took it from about 8% to about 14.7%. That's quite unprecedented. And many other economic indicators not looking good. Indeed, many have said, I don't know, but many have said that he has left the core message of the economy and now hanging on to digitalization, which I think we will come to later. How is he navigating these real economic questions?
Well, you know, Selorm, as you have said, this question has been answered a million times. It is only propaganda that is kept it out there to be asked again. And,
but the reality is on the ground, really. I mean, the reality is that there is hardship. So if you say propaganda, then you discount the true feelings of the people. You know, you discount that, and I'm not sure that's a good thing to do.
No, I make no such attempt. What I was trying to tell you is that the evidence of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the performance of the economy is one that has been engaged quite extensively. But when in answering the question, you have to go back. Which economy did he inherit? He inherited an economy that was collapsing. We came into an office in 2017, an economy that was completely on its knees, economy that had not been creating jobs, economy that is not growing. Its expansion was reduced from a high 14% at one point in 2011 all the way to about 3.4. Our debt position was worsening, and our currency was faltering at the time. And the government took office in 2017 and turned things around. You have 3 successive years of economic expansion, right? I just told you, on average, about 6-7% for 3 consecutive years. And then you have an unprecedented event in world history of COVID-19 happening. And you know, the misfortune of our communication in our country is that when we are processing the issue, we take it a moment in time. We don't look at the progression of time. where these things can be understood, because you cannot understood any economic data at a particular point. You have to see the time series evolution of that data, and that's really where the tragedy is. So if you are asking for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's performance as chair of the economic management team, I don't want to get into the conversation of who is in charge or who is not in charge, because I think that is quite manifest for everybody to know that if you are the vice president, the responsibility doesn't fall on you. You work in a team necessarily and to be able to produce an outcome. But what I want to tell you is the work that has been done, Selorm. For the first 3 years, minus COVID-19, Ghana will not be where we are. Our economy would have continued to grow. And if you are telling me and making an argument that in 2017 have an economy grow 2018, in fact, in 2019, Selorm, you recall the data or the record will show that Ghana's economy was reported by the World Bank as one of the fastest growing in the world. Now you ask yourself, what happened from an economy that is marked as one of the fastest growing economies in the world, then a turnaround of 2020, and that economy, instead of expanding at the same rate, maintaining the 6%, 7% GDP growth, dropped to 0.4 or 0.5%. 0.5%. It's going to take you a long time. And then even then, if you just pause here, looking at a 2020 GDP performance, it actually has the potential of worsening your debt to GDP position, because really it's a ratio of those of your growth. So that is where we got to. So when the NDC or anybody tries to measure the New Patriotic Party's performance, in other words, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's performance as the Economic Management Committee chair, you have to look at the progression and the performance over time. And then you have to acknowledge. And that, for me, is a sad point in our communication in this country. And we've allowed the NDC to put in our minds that, oh, don't mention COVID-19. It's not a sound analysis to want to force that on anybody, because you are accounting along the lines of time. And the events that are unfolding has direct impact on what accounting you are rendering for that particular year or over time. And so you cannot ignore COVID-19. How many times you mention it, it is a consequential event that has turned things the way we've gotten it. But now we are on a path back to recovery, and it has been sustainable from 2023 when we turned the corner. The economy has been on a steady rise. You saw the performances this year, on average about 5.8 expansion to the economy the first 2 quarters, if you see that. So we are on a strong path back, but if you're assessing and want a direct answer for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's performance, okay, as one who is supporting the president to grow the economy, it has been stellar. It has been one that we need to commend, but for COVID, we would have been a different plane as a country. Our economy would have expanded, more jobs would have been created. Ghana would not be where we are. Our city would have been stronger. But even then, so in the midst of the difficulty, and you talked about inflation, I'll talk about inflation, you talked about the currency not performing, I'll talk about that. But I want to let you know the dynamism of the candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And in the middle of a crisis, when an idea or ideas were needed to salvage the city, given the global impact that was happening, the Americans themselves, they have had to increase interest rate to strengthen their currency, because inflation was becoming a problem in their country. So they were controlling money supply by increasing their inflation. And you know that has direct impact on us, definitely. And it has direct impact on investment, because people then begin to move their money to America, where they feel it's safer. And so it has impact on capital flight as well. But I'm telling you that in all those difficulties, when foreign exchange became difficult, and how we turn around and have our economy stand on its feet in that critical moment, I'm talking about 2022, thereabout, it took us, led by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, again, to come up with an ingenious idea to say that we can back our currency with gold. And that trade, gold for money, oil for gold intervention, has ensured, on one hand, that our foreign currency requirements were supported in that regard with gold, and altogether around that period, Selorm, about 2.79 billion was realized from that arrangement to be able to meet our foreign exchange obligations. That is a leader who has ideas that are consequential and significant and relevant for the need.
So the point you're making in essence is that if the voter goes to the booth and the voter, before casting the ballot, asks himself, as you've asked us to say, I mean, to ask, look at your living conditions and vote. That voter, upon assessing his or her economic situation, standard of living, etc., you are confident that voter will vote for Dr. Bawumia. That's the point you are making in essence.
Absolutely, and see, Selorm, and that's why we have gone around this country trying at the base level to get in touch with all the voters and let them understand that at the end of the day, assessing your state and voting does not only include your present predicament, because you don't live only for today, you live also for tomorrow. So if you are living today and you're going into tomorrow, the prospect for you tomorrow can cause you to make sacrifices today. So
but you must live today first, so that you can expect tomorrow. If you die today, you don't have tomorrow. So you have to survive today.
And you have brought me to President Akufo-Addo's caution to us and the basis of his policy that navigated us safely through the difficult days of COVID-19, which is to say that we can afford, to bring back the economy, while we can't afford to bring back dead people. And so the MPP's orientation, since when COVID-19 disrupted our growth path, which was excellent, which was acclaimed globally, and you have the record. Unfortunately, this part of our achievement is not promoted by the media. We have been saying it, but you haven't collaborated.
It's not the media. Don't blame the media. You are director of communications. You are director of communications. If you invite us for programs, we will cover. We will have the discussion.
It's not a point at all. But I was just saying that.
Like I've given you a lot of time this morning to make your point. That is the media supporting your work.
That is also because I haven't seen it in a while.
No, but that's fine. We'll leave that for another day. But of course, yes.
Let me just conclude.
Yeah, so just conclude. Let me go around the studio and come back to you.
So the point for me is that we have a presidency that has brought Ghana so far, even through thick and thin. Initially with excellent growth, but we met a challenge along the way. That challenge has been navigated expertly, and the world recognized Ghana for having managed COVID even the best across the African region. And we are at the phase where the economy is on a rise, and we want someone who can guide the economy back to where it was before COVID-19.
Very well. I wanted to leave you, come back to the studio, but let me just push you a bit on this. The 2017 to 2019 record you talk about, that's great, but that record was not an MPP alone record. Government is a continuum, we say. So, for example, when the NDC was in office, they had only one oil field, okay? But before the NDC left office, there were 2 additional oil fields that were ready, but they had never benefited from. That was extra revenue coming into the economy. Obviously, that was going to push the figures up, okay? What we have also seen, or what we also saw, was your appetite for borrowing. In fact, one of the first things Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta did at the time was to go borrow. I mean, Franklin Templeton and all of that. And we saw how progressively the Eurobond borrowings were, and the alarm bells were sounded, but nobody listened to anybody. We kept borrowing, we kept cushioning the cedi with borrowed dollars, etc., creating a semblance of a steady or stable cedi until the worst happened. Our debt to GDP ratio ballooned to over 100% and now coming down. You know, when you took it, I'm looking at the rebate figures, you took it from 55, 56%. You know, so now we are telling ourselves that in 5 years' time, around 2028, we will come back to the 55, 56 you took it from 2017. So these are not things that the MPP has done itself. They were things which overflowed from the last regime. Example I gave about the the oil fields. And there were other things that they did, because government is a continuum. So when you seek to take credit, solely for that period, I don't think it's very fair, and I don't think it's very right. What you should actually be taking credit for is what happens maybe from 2020, because by then, I mean, the overflow from the 2016, 2017 MDC time would have waned.
So, in effect, you're saying that 2017, 18, 19 performance is partly NDC's performance?
Of course, because and I just give you the data, I just give you the information. There were oil fields, for example, which brought in revenue.
Let me ask you a question. So what is from 2014, right? From 2011, 14% GDP was attained. Why did that dwindle all the way till 3.4?
No, there were issues.
If it doesn't take a certain management to keep the economy growing, okay, if it doesn't take a certain management to keep the economy growing, NDC could have expanded the economy beyond where they got it at 14%. That even then, the oil matter that you're saying, who brought the oil?
No, the oil was given to us by God. What are you saying?
You saw in this country, let me come. You saw in this country the whole business of trying to bring this oil and try to maintain and try to get.
Richard, don't go that tangent. It was a cumulative result. I mean,
but you were here under President Kufuor.
That's fine. Ghana struck oil under President Kufuor. That is great. I mean, God bless us when he was president to have struck oil.
For anybody to want to claim any benefit from any collective pursuit, that individual must be part of it, must have contributed one way or the other, or if for nothing at all, supported it morally or by prayers or whatever. You understand? But the NDC were busy ridiculing the idea that this was a venture that would produce nothing. But they were the very first people. Yeah, of course. You saw in Parliament.
Because I know that, in fact, right from the days of
Chachuchi
Kata and Co. at the GMPC, there were attempts to get oil. But it so happened that Ghana struck oil when President Kufuor was in power.
But I'm saying to you that in Parliament, the NDC people, they ridicule this whole business of getting Ghana to advance as an oil-producing country.
I don't have that record, though. If you have, you can share with me. I don't have that record.
I can send you evidence of that.
I'll be grateful.
Where they were saying that this whole oil thing was Ajungo and the rest of it in Parliament. But the point I want to make to you is that if they are saying that the performance in 2017, 18, 19 is supposed to be NDC's performance.
No, not NDC's performance. Partly as a result of the policies initiated in their time.
You cannot say that. You cannot say that, because if you look at when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama took office in 2013, the economy never expanded. It went down and down and down. It never expanded.
You see, I actually wanted to move on from here, because you've been on for a while.
It's an important conversation.
Yes, you've been on for a while. So, for example, we talk about Dumso, right? We talk about Dumso, which was a perennial problem. Yes, it's part of the economy. It's part of the economy, which was a perennial problem. It came to a head 2012, 2013, and so we experienced Dumso. But what was the response of the day? I mean, it was a difficult pill to swallow, but we saw investment in the energy sector. And so you, in 2017, 2018...
It was not an investment.
No, you didn't have to struggle with those difficulties. And so you had enough installed capacity, you had even generating capacity to be able to do what you had to do. Industry now got power, etc. It was because of those investments. So to take credit from 2017 solely for yourself and seeking to poo-poo what the other administration has done, I don't think it's quite accurate.
I have not poo-pooed anything NDC has done. NDC's record was vetted. People measured them in 2016 and saw that to be...
And people rejected them. All right, that's fine.
People rejected them.
It's
not me putting their record. It's the Ghanaian people who have done that. And I'm just saying that when the Ghanaians did that, when we came in 2017, okay, if it came in 2017, economy that grew at 3.4 in 2016 turned around to 8.1 in 2017. What the difference you can see there between 2016 and 2017 is that you have a new government in place. That new government has been able to manage the economy such that instead of declining from the 3.4, okay, it grew to 8.1. And when I was giving you the series from 2013, when His Excellency Dr. John Dramani Mahama took office, the economy declined all under him. Never one time did the economy grew past the previous year. Okay, grew in numbers beyond what it recorded the previous year. And I'm saying that in 2017, you saw a change there. And that change is as a result of the new Patriotic Party taking office. And it had continued in 2018, it continued in 2019, and in 2019, Ghana actually surpassed Nigeria in terms of foreign direct investment. And Ghana was named one of the fastest growing economies in the world. That is not just, it's not by sheer luck that you get to that point. And if you compare what was happening before we came to office, it's a total contrast. Where one was declining, the other is growing under us. So that record is one that we must state and state it very clearly. Now, the game changer in the negative direction, which is COVID, I've made that point and we'll continue to make that point. But for COVID, I submit to you very humbly that Ghana's economy would not be where we are. Would have continued on that trajectory, and today, all the promises we had made to attain a certain infrastructure, threshold would have been on course to do that. In terms of strengthening our city, would have been on course to do that. In fact, in this Fourth Republic, there has not been any, and I started seeing this many years ago, where you try to keep inflation within a certain band, plus or minus 8. We have actually, in the life of President Akufo-Addo's Bawumia's administration, attained an inflation less than 8%. That has not been done in this Fourth Republic. So I'm telling you that, but for the misfortune of COVID, this economy would have advanced and all of us would have been singing Kumbaya right now. But the unfortunate thing that we met in 2020 has regressed our progress. But as we speak now, the economy is picked up. And Selorm, you can check. I've done some casual work on that. I can check. In this Fourth Republic, you have not seen an economy under any government, okay? Perhaps I have to look closely at President Kufuor's government, but I've paid attention to the NDC. You never see the NDC economic management show you an upward data in terms of growth when they have declined. You have not seen it. And I've shown you one instance from 2013 when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama became president. Up until 2016 is a slide. And you can even go back to 2011, when they attained that 14% GDP. It was a decline all the way to 2016. That data is there for them to see. But under us, in 2020, when the economy dropped, okay, due to COVID, to 0.5% GDP, 0.5% GDP, where in the sub-region in Africa, some economies recorded negative growth. We were at 0.5%. In next year, 2021, the economy grew by 5.36%. 5.36%. That takes some management. That is not luck. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was still the EMT chair at the time. You understand? And so we have grown. And 2022, again, Selorm, 2022, but for the Russian-Ukraine war intervention, the economy would have continued to grow from that uptake from 2021, which is 5.3%. 5.36%. The economy would have continued to grow, but that did decline. And the mess that happened in Parliament, with the revenue measure designed...
Of the e-levy. We'll get to all of that. I mean, you've been on for a while. Let me take a break. Let me take a break. Let me take a break. Richard, you've been on for a while. I will come back to you. You're not leaving. Let me take a break. I take a break. I come back. Then we hear from Prof. And we'll come back. This is the big issue. Don't go away.
Asylum down.
Mommy, I can't believe I swallowed the lies the MPP told us about John Mahama.
My dear, As for those people, they have been telling lies since Kwame Nkrumah's time. They accuse Kwame Nkrumah of wasting money on the Akosombo Dam.
Hey! Mama, the MPP told Ghanaians that John Mahama owns hotels and ships in Dubai. Yet, they have been in power for 8 painful years and haven't been able to prove any of those lies. I'm not surprised though that John Mahama is still working a free man.
Kuma. Even the journalists who were used to peddle these lies have come to apologize. Yet, these MPP people are still telling these same lies in 2024.
Hey.
What a bunch of wicked liars.
You know, their own special prosecutor has come to clear John Mahama of the Airbus scandal, just like Shraj cleared him of the fraud bribe lie. John Mahama is squeaky clean.
Now we know the truth, and the truth has set us free. Surely, as the Lord liveth, this time lies will not be.
No way.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
Live from the heart of the equator, get ready to be mesmerized at a night of stunning fashion and electrifying music as 1957 event proudly presents Rhythms on the Runway, the Kente edition. From Accra, Ghana to the world, this is a spectacular fusion of fashion and music to ignite your spirit. Enjoy live performances featuring the legendary Asabia Kropper, Edem, Amanziba, Nasi, Episode, Kamido, Kwabna, along with comedy from DKB. Join us at the Grand Arena on Saturday, November 30th. Red carpet starts at 7 p.m. Showtime 8 p.m. Visit www.rhythmsontherunway.com to purchase your tickets or call the hotline on 053-553-4756. 200 cities for standard, 400 cities for premium. This event is brought to you in partnership with Beyond the Return and sponsored by Johnny Walker, Caveman Watches, Ghana Tourism Authority, Goldcrest Refinery. Step out in style with a hint of Kente and dress to kill. Rhythms on the Runway, the Kente edition is a 1957 event. Media partner, City FM and Channel 1 TV.
Yeah, welcome back. This is a big issue on 97.3 City FM, of course, on Channel 1 television. We're also live on our socials. We were happy to hear from you. The text numbers are on your screen, and you may want to share your messages with us, your views with us, and then we will be happy to share that with the rest of the world. Let me say that Mussa Dankwa, Executive Director of the Global Info Analytics, is joined us. We'll be joined by Professor Smart Sarpong as well a bit later on in the show. But, Prof, Richard made a number of points in terms of the economy. He says, for example, that your 24-hour economy is you are struggling to explain it to people, and they've not seen, or Ghanaians have not seen really even one policy that seeks to stimulate the economy and turn things around. I mean, so you're just going around.
It's quite bizarre hearing that from Richard. I mean, I'm not going to waste time to say that I'm explaining the 24-hour economy to Richard, but I will exemplify for Richard to see for himself. What happened at the commissioning of the flower pot interchange was that it's a classic example of a 24-hour economy, in the sense that in the rush up to time to put morals on it and to paint it when it was not ready for commissioning, they worked 24/7. So if you say the 24-hour economy is not practical and you don't understand it, go and ask your own people who worked 24 hours to commission the flower pot interchange. So that's a classic example and a take home for Richard to understand that the 24-hour economy is practical and Ghanaians understand it, right? They were working 24/7 to commission the flower pot interchange, right? And there are several projects.
So what they're saying is that it's organic. It's,
what's organic about that?
So 24 hours.
So now
the guys working at the flower
what
pot
have they been doing?
They have to work extra.
Yeah, they are working extra, but at a disadvantage. So all those workers who worked 24/7 to get that commission do not get the real commensurate of their labor, because it's not structured within that. So what
if they did,
if we structure the 24-hour economy to say this is what it is, at peak periods at night, between 12 midnight rates are meant to vary because you are working at a certain level when other people are sleeping. Was that what happened in the interchange? I can guarantee that was not what happened.
But if that wasn't what happened,
right?
the workers, they will raise the issue.
Raise what issue? I mean, you all know what happened within the labor front. I mean, don't even go there.
People raise issues.
All things being equal. Let's juxtapose from that perspective. So I'm saying, can that be formalized? That's what the NDC is saying within the 24-hour economy, that if these things are even sporadic and natural and happening within our economy, how do we formalize it? Integrate labor laws, right? Protect people, health and safety regulations, among other issues, to formalize it and let it grow the economy. And if Richard thinks this doesn't grow the economy but gives them vote, then he's laughing at the wrong side. This is where he should be singing Kumbaya. Right? He talks about an IMF program. The NDC was exiting an IMF program when this government took place. They enjoyed the benefits of an IMF program. But you know what is going to happen? We are not going to enjoy the benefit of an IMF program. And I'll give you why.
Why?
When an IMF program comes into a country, right, the best thing to do is it gives financial discipline. Among financial discipline, it allows for currency stability, among other issues. I'll give you why that happens. The IMF programs are so predictable because, you know, boilerplates, templates, among other issues, we know that, okay, the money is safe, you're dealing with a sovereign government, and the timelines that are given, you have these things coming in. In the history of this country, since independence, going for an IMF program, this is the greatest struggle we have had in accessing an IMF program which distorted the economy and is yet to recover. Why do I say this? The first tranche we had. The second tranche, what did it take for us to have it? We struggled. All the deadlines that were given were missed. So what happens is that the watchers of the market who deal in forex, right, and are monitoring for this to hit the government kitty and have some, and the city will have some respite. It never happened. 3 conservative funds and multiple times the tranche never came in. In that case, it made the economy dysfunctional. So now the average Ghanaian or the poultry farmer who was waiting for that to hit the government kitty to expand has lost faith in it. And never in the history of this country have we struggled as a sovereign nation to access an IMF facility. Come on. What was it? He's forgetting that in this country, haircuts. What brought about the haircuts? The borrowing spree by Ken Oforiatta on the bond market, recklessly borrowing and issuing commissions out to their own personal companies. Who does that? A very dysfunctional corporate governance setup we've had in this country, where you have the data bank stock that ran the economy and couldn't even allow space because at the point you have someone from SEC, the Securities and Exchanges Commission, which is meant to be a regulatory body, from the data bank stock. Ken himself at the time from data bank stock was a finance minister. You had someone from the data bank stock running the GIPC, bringing investment and had direct access of funding from the finance minister, who is a colleague. Is this corporate governance? How does this even inject confidence into an economy? So these people have taken us for granted for far too long. You're talking about oil for gold program. What scandal have we not seen in this oil for gold program?
Well, what scandal is there?
Oh, there was no scandal surrounding it.
No, I don't know. So you just...
No, I mean, we discuss issues about oil for gold and you're talking about... I don't want to waste time talking about these nitty-gritties, but I'm mentioning out and reminding Ghanaians of what happened within these programs and all of those things. But we're talking about cedi to $1. What have they done? Dr. Bawumia, as head of economic management team, superintended over this. But he had a solution.
The economic management team is just advisory. And the real manager of the economy was the finance minister.
Oh, really? Since when has it become so?
Economic management.
So when Dr. Bawumia was posing out questions to Mr. Atta, in what capacity was he doing that? He couldn't have posed that to Sektekpe.
As candidates.
Right? He couldn't have posed that to Sektekpe. And he's still running away from lectures. In any case, if his digitalization policy is actually working, which lacks a framework, it's just about development of apps, which college students do all around the world. And you think that is good news for you to come around, and these apps are not even functional. How many of Ghanaians use them? User-friendliness, among other issues.
The ECG app works.
Right. Dr. Bawumia commissioned that?
Yes, recently. And
right?
I mean, not recently,
but should a certain vice president be commissioning ECG apps?
No, but if it's part of his grand plan...
No, how could he be part of his grand plan? That's a corporate entity. If it's a state, not Selorm. It's a state corporate entity. And if you need government...
You need a drive from the top.
No. And an app is a drive for it.
No, I mean to digitalize.
No,
the
if he should
go for example,
he should go improve his.
Make you
he should go improve his economic. He should go improve his economic forte by making ECG pay off their independent power providers. That's where he can have some credit for, which he's unable to do. It's not app, low-hanging fruits. which a commercial venture comes in, fixes, and you go away. Let's not be promoting these low-hanging fruits for people who want to be president. The presidency is a serious business, and I think we need to move away from that. He's gone up to dust up. If his campaign was doing very well, why is he dusting up free SHS and running off with it? In the last few days or weeks, you've seen they are going after free SHS as a grand policy.
No, but if it's a major achievement of their regime,
well, but he says he's
disassociating
himself from the regime in the first place.
No, he didn't say that. He said
he never did. He said he was a driver's mate. And what kind
of a driver's mate doesn't mean he's not in the car. He's in the car. Just like he doesn't drive the car.
Yeah, if you don't drive the car, why go for the glory? When the car is parked. So when the car is parked, why go and sit in the steering, still sit and hold the steering wheel?
If the driver is not there, you take the steering wheel.
No, but the driver is still, no, the sleepy driver is still in there. He's still in there. So what's he trying to do? So he's gone back to free SHS, which they are still struggling to even fix. So you have all of these litany of issues coming up. Haircuts in this country, pensioners, their blood, sweat, and tears. This is the most draconian economic regime we've ever had in this country. We're not talking about that, and he's pontificating about what? That he wants to sing Kumbaya. Is this a time to sing Kumbaya? Right. So we are talking about real issues. The IMF facility has come in. What stability has it given us? None. Right? The CD is still wobbling all over the place, and we're not talking about that. Business people, except ministers lining up their homes with dollars and hard currency. We don't have what happened. A very malnourished ministry. Where did we see this? All their initiatives that they thought to even spare the economy with were riddled with scandals. The same free SHS that's a golden baby, you are feeding kids with expired foods within it.
The FDA passed it. They said it was wholesome.
The FDA passed it, so it's wholesome.
Says it was wholesome. So once it was wholesome, that matter closed.
Well, if we say that is it, you and I know the kids know what they're being fed with. We're here in this country and we're monitoring all of these. Right? So if you look at all of these issues, a central bank for a very long time in the history of this country, under John Dramani Mahama, under President Mills, did we post losses? And you had a governor hold a press conference to poo-poo the fact that the central bank losses is nothing. A central bank governor?
But you see, you make all this analysis.
Right. No, I'm also coming. No.
Oblivious of the fact of the tragedy.
What tragedy?
And catastrophe of COVID and the
No, please, Selorm, don't go there. Which economy in this world today is still hinged to the catastrophe of COVID-19? We are forgetting that the COVID-19 pandemic still brought in its wake, right? Though in a sorrowful way, brought in some economic progress to most economies. The digital space, if Dr. Baumia's digitalization was anything to go by, COVID would have spared our digitalization progress. You look at the tech companies that emerged under COVID, which of them could he stand with, except the low-hanging fruits of apps, which college students can develop. So what are we talking about? So they should forget about this COVID-19, Russia, Ukraine. Ukraine itself is not even crying this much about it. All they are trying to do, Russia, that was even sanctioned, they took Russia off the SWIFT system of international money transaction. They survived Russia, Ukraine. So what is the MPP talking about? No, they think they're so special that they can have an excuse of anything.
For example, I mean, there was a shutdown.
Shutdown of what?
Government was paying workers. Workers were not working. That
workers, will have... No, how many workers were not working?
I mean, public sector workers, a lot of them
public sector, they innovated.
And quite a number of them were
No, but they innovated.
Work was not a
in
level
any
that
case,
it was
within our public sector system, let's look at it from an economic utility perspective. How many of us work to pay ourselves in the first place? So if you take the public sector sample, right, you're not going to make a sound argument. Because in and of itself, with or without COVID, how many of us have a real return on the kind of recruitment we do in labor terms, on the cost of unit per labor? So you look at it from that critical angle. So, I mean, all of this, bring these interjections here and there is neither here nor there. Central bank posting losses. What are we talking about?
The point really is...
Look, Selorm, and what's amazing me about the dysfunctionality of this government and all of what they're doing to attract votes. A central bank building, devoid of politics, forget my NDC colors whatsoever. A central bank building is a national security asset. It's not a political building, right? The commissioning that we saw was a political commissioning, and I think we ought to take things very seriously.
Because the president was
there?
No,
it's not because the president was there. Wait for it. It's a national security asset. Wait for it to be completed, to be functional, and then you go and commission it. But the same driver mate who runs away from everything the president is associated with accompanied him to go and hold a
because he once worked
to
there.
commission
I mean, it's just nice that a place I've worked in before. If they are doing a new thing and they invite me, why not?
Oh,
you wanted him to tender the invitation of the central bank.
No, come on, Selorm. Come on.
He used to work there as deputy governor. And so they invite him to go to a place he shouldn't go.
Come on, Selorm.
I mean, it was a happy day. And so they were calling all people who...
So happy day to come and complete the building that will not be functional once it is done.
No, we don't know
happy
that.
Day for a central bank that has posted losses. Happy day for a central bank that is struggling to tame inflation. Happy day, Selorm.
So I think
happy day. Your context of happy day is really surprising. So when you say happy day and extending invitations, it's really very interesting. Happy day for a central bank that's unable to stabilize forex. Happy day, Selorm. So let's look at it.
The other issue is, you said all these things about the NPP, but what is the NDC bringing to the table?
Yeah, we have talked about the 24-hour economy, which is going to be a very big push because it goes through every facet of the economy, every nook and cranny if it's formalized. I'm still coming through. Can I say this? I've been on the campaign trail.
Okay.
He's talking about our struggle. These days you arrive and they say, look, you have chiefs telling you that we want to be a part of your Women's Development Bank. Our women want to be a part of it. We want to be part of your 24-hour economy. If this message is not resonating with the people, they will not be telling us. They'll wait for us to tell them that. Now, you see, when we talk about a 24-hour economy, people, I would say there's a demand side to it and an incentive side to it. Okay, when we talk about a demand side, we are talking about an attractive industry, right? Or enclave within the economy that needs it, and we give it to it. When we talk about an incentive side, that already exists within the economy but not formalized. As I gave an example of the construction industry, which could happen 24/7. All right, you go to, when I drive past midnight, I know where to drive to. I drive to Shell, Airport Shell, because I'll get fuel 24/7, right? So that needs to be incentivized. So now at the pump, in terms of incentive, I'm giving a practical example here. Let's say we recalibrate the pump that after midnight, you have a 0.5 cent additional because it's past midnight, and that may probably cost more as an incentive to attract others to also operate within the 24-hour cycle. I'm just giving a ballpark example. Don't hold me to it. I'm just trying to tell you what is possible to be done within this framework of a 24-hour economy. I mean, you look at the restaurant and hospitality industry. Eduanepa, East Legon, 24/7. You can go there and buy food anytime you want. So within the hospitality space, how do we incentivize the likes of Eduanepas to be more practical and dotted around the nook and cranny of the country, length and breadth of the country? Now you look at again, we see that when we talk about hospitality, most people think about a night economy and the likes of that. In Accra, bar weekend, which is maybe a Friday night and a Saturday night, by 11 p.m. everywhere else is shut. Hotels, by 10 p.m., half 10, except concierge service and a skeletal front desk, everything is shut. So how do we go back to the hospitality industry and the night economy, right, to generate all of
24-hour disco.
24-hour. It's not, when you say disco, you're trying...
I'm not saying...
No, but you see, when you say disco, in a derogatory way, but go to Vegas to chill, it's on you. Or you go to Dubai to chill, it's on you, right? So you think having the discos in Dubai and having the discos in Monaco and having the discos, right, in Vegas is better than not having a disco. You can have a disco here, why not? When we were commissioning the circle interchange, what did they not say? Dubai interchange, blah, blah, blah. Today, it's being utilized. It's effective, right? So when we're even talking about real-time infrastructure that has returns and are paying themselves off. Terminal 3 is a classic example. Who initiated it? It's not President Mahama. Can they point to one single project of infrastructure? You made examples of the Ridge Hospital. They talk about Agenda 111. How many of them has been commissioned? I thought that because healthcare is serious, we've emerged from a pandemic which they are using as an excuse for their economic mismanagement of the economy, they would have focused on healthcare and at least give us 5 Agenda 111. But what happens? If you're Konta Hospital, which is in a dysfunctional state, you go to erect a statue acting like Caligula.
He didn't do it. People did it.
But he went to commission it, did he not? And now I'm interested in economic terms, how much the state is spending on security of a statue of a president who has mismanaged it.
Security in terms of what?
Oh, but they put police there. That because they don't want it to be vandalized.
Because some people have threatened to...
Yeah, so we are paying them to do that. We are using the taxpayer to pay the police to go and look after a statue of a man who mismanaged the economy.
But why did you
riddled with scandals among other issues.
To demolish it? You don't have to threaten
which people? Why are you saying which people? Like the NDC?
We've had some.
Selorm, it's protest.
They are protesting.
Yes.
And the way to do
and
it
it's part of protest. No, it's part of protest.
State assets.
Even in developed countries, they pull down statues of former, slave traders, among other issues, in protest of all of these things. In civilized nations.
The NDC will do that.
I'm not saying NDC will do that. Okay. The people of the indigenous said they were going to do it. The NDC never made a statement about it. But he's behaving like Caligula, who was a pro-consul of Rome, who wanted to make his horse the pro-consul of Rome, who fed his horse with wheat and gold dust. That is what he's trying to do. And this is what the good people of Ghana need to stop. Right? The disrespect is becoming too much of an economy. So what are we saying? So you talk about Women's Development Bank. We're talking about empowering our women, giving them utility, giving them agency. Right? Imagine a bank which is headed by a woman, a board that comprises of women. It even bridges the corporate governance gap of diversity and inclusion, where you have this, they understand their own plight and problem. And when women have money, the entire household has money. And that's exactly what we're doing with the Women's Development Bank. Right? Just a few days ago, University of Cape Coast issued a statement postponing reopening of the academic year. We are talking about no stress fees for the first academic year. How is that not fit for purpose? How is that not answering to the good people of Ghana as far as their plight is concerned? So which is why we say we're bringing you good news. And the good news is in our manifesto. So I expect Richard to take our manifesto word by word and compare to theirs. Not dusting up policies of free SHS, which we're still all struggling to fix. And by the way, they're still making propaganda statements that we say will cancel free SHS. How? We're not. We're going to improve it drastically in the way it should be, incorporating means testings among other issues to make it more efficacious. How many of them have their wards through the free SHS system? How many of them would eat the food they eat? Right? How many of them? But you see, the cost component of all of these things, it's a catchy phrase. We all admired. It went a long way to win them an election. We cannot deny that. But the practicality of it. Today, I was expecting, instead of still shouting free SHS and going to dust it up for your own campaign when you are dissociating yourself from the government, I expect them to come out to say, this is the research we've done. This has been the impact of free SHS. This is the increase in numeracy and literacy scale, which they have failed fundamentally to do. What are they taking us? So you can see that Dr. Bawumia is running a very dysfunctional campaign. The only thing they're good at is flying in foreign public relations people to come and put up murals on their social media to prove that something is happening. And it's all callous. Callous.
I see.
Callous, riding an elephant.
This is the big issue. My guest this morning, Professor Sharif Mahmoud Kali, member of the NDC's Economic and Finance Committee, Richard Ahiagba, whom we heard a while ago, Director of Communications of the NPP, Mussa Dankwa, who is here to speak.
So, Selorm, let me conclude.
You conclude. Yeah. Of the Global Info Analytics, Franklin Kujo, who is joining us on Zoom, President Imani Africa, and Professor Smart Sarpong, Senior Lecturer, Kumasi Technical University, who will join us on Zoom as well. Professor Khalid Mahmoud is just about concluding. So, yes, conclude.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that by far, they've had an IMF program. And I say this is the only IMF program that will not give benefit to the country and will not give benefit to a successive government, unlike we did for them before.
Richard also made a point.
Let me go before you interchange. Can I conclude on the IMF program? So the tranches that we struggle to. Now, bar fiscal discipline, the IMF program failed to inure any economic benefit because the market doesn't trust, it's predicting it for when it will come in and for them to make investments. And if they have the economic forte, as Dr. Bawumia advertises himself to be, he should tame the dollar. Has he been able to do that? And thanks to that, so what is even happening is that we are managing an IMF program. So whatever is happening in the economy, it's thanks to an IMF program, not them. Can they mention one economic policy they've initiated that is meant at taming inflation, that is meant at making the cedi to stabilize against the dollar?
Good for oil.
And it did that?
Yeah, so...
what was the price before?
So the claim is that...
No, it's not the claim. What was the dollar rate?
The claim is that using the oil to purchase using the gold to purchase the oil will ease the pressure of the cedi.
Selorm, it is not the explanation you are giving me. I asked you, what was the rate before? What is the rate after? Nothing has changed significantly. So if you say that has an impact... No, that is practical for us to see. So I don't see where that is coming from.
Fact.
No, so
it's also a fact that
when we went to Sanchi, called on a stakeholder dialogue. They poo-pooed it, but they were organizing town hall meetings. Why does these people think that whatever they do is the best and whatever anyone else does is not, when you're even having a genuine progress and inclusion of government engagement?
Very well.
As far as the policy or economy is concerned.
Very well.
Today, Cocoa Board, the syndicated loan, right? We went to the the international market for syndicated loans without cracking a sweat, a single sweat.
Very well.
First time in the history under this regime, the syndicated loan
let me hear from Franklin.
was shone upon.
Great.
And we struggle to have it. So
Franklin,
this is the kind of state of economy they've left us with.
Very well. Franklin, welcome to the program. We've been discussing infrastructure, economy, etc. And the claim that the MPPs manage the economy better, as Richard Ahangba tried to say. Professor Mahmood here is saying that that entirely is not the case. It's also advances arguments to support his position. Well, where do you stand really? I mean, we've seen infrastructure inaugurations over the week. We hear a lot of it will continue, etc. I mean, these should count for something. The economy is growing, and so we see all these projects coming up, etc. But the real issue also has to do with the standard of living. I mean, people have said their standard of living is dropped, things are expensive. And we're looking at this in the context of the election. How is the election going to see all of this, the economy, infrastructure, etc.? I mean, quite a nebulous question, but try and put it all together for me.
Well, good morning to your good self and my good friends in the studio. Let me just say that, anyway, it's still morning here in New York. Listen, look, let's look at the polls that have been conducted, some of the opinion polls that have been conducted by the likes of CDD, the Afrobarometer, and Dankwa and the rest. Look, if you ask, I recall the last Afrobarometer report suggested that the economy basically was the second most important issue after integrity and truth and loyalty. So is it loyalty? Rather, integrity and truth and honesty, right, in governance. And people were preferred to, are likely to vote for a candidate based on trust and truth rather than what we all thought would have been the first most important thing. It doesn't mean that people do not think about the economy. The economy for me is the front and center of this election. I mean, everybody is feeling the pinch really. And I think that this government has done a lot of disservice to the economic arguments. I'm still amazed that my good friend, the Vice President, is actually virtually running away from dealing with the aspects of the economy that ought to be spoken about. The inflation issues, the exchange rate issues, the fact that we went to a debt exchange that saw a few souls being lost. And look, quite a number of people have lost significant amounts of money, Eurobond money, and they are crying quietly to some of us. So it's not pretty. And I think that we should be educating people to know that, look, whatever affects people in Accra, and obviously affects everybody in every part of the country. As we speak today, Ghana and Sri Lanka went to the IMF around about the same time. Remember Sri Lanka, you know what happened in Sri Lanka? I mean, they virtually chased the president out, almost ransacked his presidency, his palace, and all of that. Today, Sri Lanka just posted an inflation of 0.7%. They got the same money, 2.9 billion US dollars. That's what they got from the IMF. When we got 3 billion, and actually we got more, because we got more money from the World Bank and got plenty money. We got plenty money. So you see, this conversation about COVID and Russia, Ukraine, why? Sri Lanka, far poorer. They were on the street. You saw what happened in Sri Lanka, didn't you? Read the story. It's on my Facebook page. I've shared it. Someone shared it with me. Reuters. It's not me that's generating the story. In fact, the central bank is looking at cutting inflation, reducing the monetary policy instrument further. So what the central bank is thinking hard, we are here erecting buildings and having jamborees, right? The economic management team leader is even gone AWOL. And we are here saying that the economy was challenged because of some of these actions, some of these so-called, how do I put them, challenges that affected the economy, exogenous challenges. Look at Sri Lanka. They also suffered COVID, if probably more than us, right? They had their ministers and people beaten up. The president was chased. People were swimming in this palace in the swimming pool. And they decided to be serious and do proper reforms and confronted the issues. The inflation is 0.7%. It's facing a further cut. They got $2.9 billion. So only 3 billion. Okronya Sikabi, IMF, World Bank, China for they doing that testing. They finished. Sri Lanka. So if anybody tells you that this economy cannot be managed, and I challenge anybody, I think me and my money team, and we put together a few people who are very, 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 not necessarily formally educated, but proper business elites, locals, we can manage this economy. I've told you, it's not that I'm boasting. You know, you recall, managing a country may be different from managing, let's say, an association in a university. But I did it. I raised money to retire the debt of my predecessors and left a surplus. They said I should run again. I said, I won't run. I've done my work. If you cannot do these kinds of things, I don't know what else you're managing. Why? Collect money, share the money, do projects here and there. Every government will do a project. I'm actually particularly pained that we are not having serious conversations as we had during the last time my good friend Baumia came onto the free. And Baumia, to his credit, by the way, and I've said this every night, and I keep saying it. He actually changed the face of our politics, right? Because he brought on these issues about policy conversations and all of that. I mean, all the many sound bites we can credit Baumia to, right? If the fundamentals are with the exchange rate to expose you. All those terminologies are serious, and many people learn economics as a result, right? You know that. Today, we expect those debates to be much more, deeper. Because he's part of a government that has led us into an abyss, chunked economy, thrown us out of the international markets, and we are here still struggling, right? If inflation is still struggling, if our, exchange rate is still gone there, if the exchange rate is even being managed properly, it's being managed. Otherwise, it should be hovering around 25, 26 cities to the dollar right now. So please, and I'm not saying they are managing it because of any extensive excellent skills. Because of the gold purchase that actually shoring up the money, shoring up the currency anyway. So look, I worry strongly that I don't care the kinds of campaigns that are being run. You can run campaign of free SHS. Well, free SHS, first of all, it's not your money, but you did it anyway. So is that the only thing you should be talking about? If you say to relieve people's livelihoods, right? Relieve them of their pressures that they will face. You don't have to wait until they are dead. Why don't you do them now? You remember in America, when they were having elections, my favorite Trump, well, you see my Trump won, beat Kamala to pulp. I told you, people don't listen. And I tell people they don't listen. He beat Kamala to pulp because one of the questions he kept asking Kamala, all these wonderful things you say you want to do, why are you not doing them now? We didn't hear say, Kamala did not even say that I don't have constitutional power, I don't have constitutional authority. The kinds of nonsense we hear in this country is really annoying. That if somebody is a vice president that has helped the country, was brought in as an economic whiskey, and the economy is tanked, and is moving on to other things, it beggars belief that we should be asking those questions anyway. He's my good friend, and he knows it. And he knows I'll say this to him face to face. If I were in town, they invited us recently. I explained that I was not going to be around. I would have confronted him straight back. Chairman, Charlie, some of us respected you a whole lot. Deal with the issue. Dealing with it doesn't mean we should wait for you to win. Deal with it. If you can deal with e-levy, you can deal with some of the taxes. Why don't you do them now? Why are you afraid of Adonoo? Adonoo, there is a suspense for so. Is that basically erecting statues here and there? But in any case, look, let's not. This is serious matter. People say all kinds of things. I mean, I don't care. Listen, it's not. I'm sure even Mr. Sarpong will tell you. I know people have issues about his post and all what have you, but he'll tell you that the economy is the front and center of the issues. You can jump and go forward and come down. And I say clearly that if the vice president is still running away from dealing with economic matters, I'm sorry, that's not smart. Seriously, it's not smart.
Very well.
Thank you.
Yes, frankly. So, Richard, I still there. I mean, so now we're moving a discussion forward. I mean, this week, yes. This week, this week we've seen two polls. Yes. No, let them put a question. You can tie them up. So we've seen two polls. We've seen Global Info Analytics, which did a telephone poll. He's been doing that weekly for some time, and we've also seen the end line report on 276 constituencies in Ghana. Professor Sarpong's polls. The two polls appear very different in terms of the outcomes. As a political party, how have you been looking at this? And we'll have that discussion soon after your comment, and your comment should be brief.
Well, thank you, Selorm. On the question of the polls, I think you have our friend Mussa Dankwa and then Prof. Sarpong on the line. So I guess they should do their presentation. We'll get into it. But before that, Selorm, I don't understand what Dr. Khalid is talking about. It's just all over the map. Fundamentally, the record will have it that even till this morning, the NDC has not been able to explain what in the name of God in me by 24 hours. The example he's giving is completely uninformed and confirms exactly what we've been telling them, that a 24-hour economy is demand-driven, so that the policy proposition by the NDC should tell us how they are going to create the demand for the 24-hour economy to result. You don't put the cart before the horse. So what example he thinks is giving, and, in the studio, patting himself on the back, said that they are building some over interchange and people work 24 hours. It's completely uninformed. Is it because the over interchange is there and you need to commission it, then you get people to drive it? That is demand. There is the demand to complete that job. And so therefore, you get the people to do it. What are they going to do to stimulate the economy to create the level of demand that will drive the 24-hour economy? That's the question. That's the fundamental question that the NDC has not been able to answer. How are you going to get the economy to where it is creating the demand? So you need first shift, second shift, third shift. When they say they are going to do a 24-hour economy in the manner they are proposing it, it is equal to putting the cart before the horse. It's never done. You're not going to go anywhere. And that makes it a complete lie, and it is a lie. The worst form of lies to any set of voters in the history of the world is this one, the 24-hour economy. It's a sham.
So, Richard, before the free SHS, which has been implemented now, when the idea was mooted, the argument you're making now that it's not workable, it's a lie, and all of that, was made by the NDC. But you shame the MDC by implementing the free SHS, and today it's a major plank of your campaign. Are you not running into the same difficulty? Should they come and start it and make it work? Years later, your voice is played back. Won't that be a difficulty?
This is common sense. This is common sense. If a man tells you he's going to give birth, don't just believe it, because it's not practical. It's not practical. Maybe you want to inquire that he's talking about giving birth with his wife, but he's not talking about he himself practically giving birth.
Very well. Okay. Great.
So the point is that if you are going to do 24-hour economy, which is demand driven, how are you going to create the demand? So the conversation begins from where you are going to create the demand. Show us the path to the 24-hour economy. It doesn't just drop that, hello, this is 24-hour economy. That common sense approach should come to the conversation. So the free SHS conversation, they say, where are you going to find the money? And we say, we'll manage the economy to find the money. And we have managed the economy to find the money. They are making the same argument now. He's saying that, when they come, they are proposing that, first-year students in universities, they won't pay school fees. Is that not what he's saying? We are not questioning it. The question is, how are you going to manage the economy? Show us how you're going to manage the economy. But this whole thing about 24-hour economy, which they are using as a mere slogan to deceive the people, we're saying that it is, in all honesty, an insult to all of us, our intellect. Franklin Kujo is there in New York, looking very sharp. Okay, Professor Sarpong is here. Mussa Dankwa is there. We are a bit red. Okay, so that when somebody says that they are going to do 24-hour economy, the fundamental question is that how are you going to create the demand?
Very well. So let him answer that fundamental question.
He hasn't been able to answer that question.
Let Prof
anyway
answer that fundamental question.
You see,
okay.
Yeah, let Prof answer that question. So, Prof, how do you create the demand?
No, the point is, did you see the contradictory statements? But before I say that, his ability to sit in Peduase and speak to us via Zoom, right, is an incentive by COVID-19. Well, COVID-19 spared Zoom as a digital corporation, which was already existing. Which of Dr. Baumia's digitalization projects are existent today that could be exemplified in such fashion if that is their cardinal policy? Now, to move away from that, he himself...
I could buy ECG credits from my room.
Stop that ECG example. You're making a mockery about it. Because that's a state entity. And an MD ought to be able to do that. How about if I pay stuff via WhatsApp? I should give the credit to Dr. Baumia.
I don't know, but
if I buy on Instagram and pay, I should give the credit to Dr. Please.
There was leadership.
Selorm, don't go there. Let's progress it. So we're in the 21st century. Let's be serious as an economy. What I'm saying is he keeps contradicting himself. It's demand. What does he understand by demand? Right? His inability to actually appreciate what the true economy is telling us that they should be voted out of power because he does not appreciate that we have a road infrastructure deficit. A wide road infrastructure deficit. If a wide road infrastructure deficit is not deemed as demand, then I don't know what Richard Ahiago's definition of demand is to drive a 24-hour economy. And that is the very reason why they should be voted out of the economy, because they lack an appreciation of what these things are. You've been in power for 8 years. You've been in power for 8 years and you don't know. I'm coming to that. I'm answering the 24-hour economy. So you've been in power for 8 years and you don't know that there is a massive road infrastructure deficit, which is enough demand for us to get these roads and other infrastructure deficits.
So there'll be resources available for roads to be constructed in 24-hour fashion.
In 24-hour fashion, which creates an index. Because the point is, you see, when you look at this, when we talk about a trade shift economy, we're even not talking about, you see, when you go to many jurisdictions, now, some things are happening around the roadside because there's roadblocks, among other issues. During the daytime, people are still busy. But you apply your road, right? You go home at night, you sleep over, you wake up to a new or a much better improved road because some people worked overnight. And that is what we talk about, a trade shift economy. If you don't have a full appreciation of it, and you believe that Franklin Kujo is sitting in New York or wherever in America and looking sharp and enjoying a 24-hour economy or similar and it's not practical in Ghana, then I don't know what you're talking about. And he's juxtaposing it with free SHS, which he said they'll stir the economy too.
Great. We'll spend quite some time on this. Let's make progress.
Yeah, we're making progress because I'm trying to explain that.
Okay, so just land, and then we'll go to the next issue.
So what I'm saying is that if infrastructure deficit, more so road infrastructure deficit, which is very wide, urban roads, feeder roads that need to connect cocoa industry, which Mahama started, and it's going to continue, and you think that these are not enough to be a demand. And you see, he's failing to also realize that I said there's no only demand side to 24-hour economy. There's an incentive side, which means that already existing within an informal fashion ought to be formalized. So if you don't have a full appreciation of this and a demand of votes, they only believe in demands of votes. So demands of votes is what led them to go and paint murals on a road that is not constructed, that has health and safety hazards, and think that they've done something worthwhile as far as construction of roads is concerned, and yet they're failing to appreciate what a 24-hour economy. Then I'm sorry, they'll never get it. They'll probably get it when they're in opposition, when the good people of Ghana show them the way.
I see. So let's get to the polls now. So we've seen two polls this week. One by the Global Info Analytics, and I just quote a portion of it. It says that the poll shows that John Dramani Mahama leading. The poll shows Mahama leading with 51.9%. The ruling party's candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, trails with 40.5%. Alan Kojo Tremantin, 2.1%. And Nana Kwame Bediako with 4.7%. And others on 0.7%. The other one, which came a bit later in the week from Professor Smart Sarpong, also put the governing party's candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, at 49.1%, John Mahama at 45.8%, Alan Tremantin at 1.2%, Cheddar, Nana Kwame Bediako at 2.2%, and then the others altogether getting 1.7%. This is what we are confronted with. But let me start off with this way. Let me start off with Mussa Dankwa, who is the Executive Director of the Global Info Analytics. What were the key issues, in your view, that are driving the election, or the key issues upon which these results were churned out?
Right. Selorm, good morning to you and good morning to your viewers and your listeners on this program. Look, over the past 2.5 years to 3 years, what has been on people's mind in this country is generally about where they believe the country is headed. Over 60% have been saying that we are headed in the wrong direction for the past 3 years. 60%. Compared to 29% who are saying that it's the right direction. Then you come to the...
Sorry. So on your screen now are the key issues from Global Info Analytics. So you have economy, jobs, etc. So go ahead.
Yes, we'll come there. Then you ask them about their personal economic condition. What has it been like compared to the last 12 months. 55% of Ghanaian voters today are saying that it's gotten worse in the last 12 months. 17% said it is the same, and only 29% are saying that it's better. So the same and worse is close to 70%
worse.
And then you ask them, what are your top issues that you will take into account before you cast your vote? Then they tell you that number one is the economy. Number two, jobs. Number three, education. These are the top ticket items. Between economy and jobs, it's about 48% of people's concern. You add education 17%, you're getting close to 65% or thereabout. Now, these are the conversations that are driving people's behavior in this election. And then, you have to know which of the candidates the voters believe could do a better job in managing the critical issues today, which is the economy. On that count, you have 52% of those people saying the leader of the opposition candidate party, John Mahama. 40% saying that Dr. Bawumia. And another 6% saying Nana Kwambidiaku. And 2% are saying Alan. Even though we're not asking them who are you voting for, but who do you believe has the competence, experience, and a track record to better manage the current economic crisis? And this is their verdict.
I see. Prof. Smart Sarpong, welcome to the program. Pleasure to have you on. We've seen your work as well, and there's a part which shows it's a histogram or a bar chart talking about some issues, good roads, youth employment, etc. I'm sure my producer will put it on the screen. Does this mean that from your polls, these are the issues that the voters think will drive this election and the issues upon which the results you put out were based?
Right. Lawyer, good morning to your good self and to the team in studio, my good friend Franklin and Richard. The issues that are driving voter decisions is not different from what my brother Mussa Dankwa put out. There are global issues and we have the local level issues. The global issues consistently, you would have economy, you would have the jobs, education, the roads, and all those things. What I sought to do was to get the local level needs as well so that we can match it with the global one that we know. And for the graph that we have on the screen currently, you realize that roads becomes the number one local level or community level needs for our people. Youth employment will feed into the second parameter Mussa showed, which is jobs. And then we have potable water crisis. Skills training may also fit into jobs, and so on and so forth. What I wanted to project with this
public toilet facility, that's such a big issue.
You see, so that is why this is community level needs, so that at the global level, people may not be talking about some of these things, but for the people down there who are also going to be part of the decision making, many, to the tune of the percentage we can see, feel that that is also going to be a basis for which they are going to take a decision, and that they do not accept that in this modern times, 21st century, many of them do not have a place to make themselves comfortable. So, not to say the global issues do not work, but this is just to supplement. And you can realize even under this community level needs, a lot of the global issues Mussa spoke about still features. So they can put together the two and not to put premium on one against the other. Because like you rightly asked, public toilet facility. In fact, you go through the list and you see the health also showing people need CHIPS compounds and then health centers and those things. What intrigues me is the telecommunication network and then the renovation of deplorable schools. These are things that, you may be interested too much in the global issues and you may lose sight on some of these that are also very passionate to the people down there who are also going to participate in this decision making.
Great. I just want to know, were these options you gave that people chose or selected, or people were asked general questions and they said, okay, good roads is an issue for me, youth unemployment or youth employment is an issue for me? Were there options given in your questionnaire, these options, or you just left them to come up with these?
Well, so after several, so the work itself started on the 1st of October, but they were preliminary. And we shortlisted those that were consistent at the local level and provided them as options to be taken. And then there was another other where the person, beyond these options that were carefully summarized, beyond these options, if the person has still have an other, then he put. So you see there's an other provision over there constituting quite a good percentage.
Yeah. I see. But also quite curious is the fact that I don't see free SHS or education here, unless, of course, the point is that free SHS comes out at global. But given that we understand free SHS affects almost every household across the country, and that it's such an important policy of the government, education even doesn't feature. And I'm wondering why free SHS never came up in this list.
Maybe education has been served. We are talking about needs, based on which they are going to take the coming decision.
Okay, that's great. All right, so now let's look at let's look at the global figures or the headline. Franklin, do you have any thoughts on what has been said so far? Just quickly.
Listen, I think polls are very interesting, and they can be finicky. Don't forget, my Trump issues come back again. Polls were running neck and neck. Some of us had seen the light already, and we knew what was going to happen. But anyway, I'm no clairvoyant at all. I think this. I like the fact that Smart and Mussa seem to be on the same page, basically when it comes to the issues. You know, what I'm concerned about is exactly how the sampling is done. You know, sometimes if you don't take care and if you don't sample properly, you make sure that you have proportionate biases, more or less, biases in terms of those who are for a particular party or the other party. It's difficult. Even here in America, I'm sure you know that people maxed whatever they wanted to say. They say, oh, we don't have a view or we will not vote. All those people were Trump people, you know, so it's a bit difficult. If you don't do the balancing well, you may have challenges. But again, it's also on the questions you ask, really. I mean, I would think that I'm yet to see most of the questions Smart asked, but I think he's mentioned a few of them. And the way sometimes the questions are also put, you know, so that you can elicit a certain response. But saying that, I think largely, so we do our own polls, but we not normally do not publish. But I can speak a little bit to it. Polls that were conducted, the whole of the northern region, which we did the 57 constituencies, the whole of Upper East, the entire northern region, and ended somewhere in September. It's gonna be tough for the ruling government. I mean, that the things I see, even Baumia's own backyard, is gonna have a lot of challenge in terms of the parliamentary elections. So it's a bit, but I see that they've managed to close in a bit since the last time we did the much universal one. But there are still challenges, and everybody we've asked, all the people we've spoken with in the constituency, major issues are exactly unemployment, the economy, and they would rather these issues are solved. Some of them don't even care who's leader; they just want issues solved. Also, the question about who do you trust to deliver, you see disproportionately people going basically towards the opposition. So anyway, let me just say that I'd rather be willing to see the kinds of questions and then how the sampling is also, so that we prevent some.
Great. So I'm going to the sampling. Just picking brief thoughts from Richard, and then Prof. Then we get to Mussa for his sampling techniques and get to Prof as well. Richard, brief thoughts on what you've heard so far about the issues driving the election.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Selorm. I still remain surprised about Franklin's lack of confidence in the polls, especially Prof's finding.
Oh, no. Having said that.
He hasn't said that.
Having said that too.
Okay, all right, because I was going to say something. Okay, thank you. Yes, so I think that Franklin's take on the matter is clear. The balance or the scienceness or the lack of it or of a poll draws from the sampling, because that's really where you're looking to have a gauge of people's likely actions from a small unit that you juxtapose or you generalize to the larger population. So it is key how those people are arrived at and then included in the survey to be able to make their views representative of the larger population. One of the things that I have seen, which is for me great about Prof's research, is the sample size is huge. I've seen that, and the larger the sample size, and the more representative it is, assuming that all the other sampling techniques and the parameters are adhered to, you get to a more realistic projection or determination from there than if the sample size is smaller. Also, one of the key things that I'm looking at, and for us to pay attention to, is that most of these polls, the insight generated from there applies at the time the question is posed. In other words, 2 days after that, 3 days after that, 5 days after that, that thought, that individual who may have made that contribution indicating one way or the other that this is the direction I'm going to go, may be influenced, because in real time the campaign is still ongoing. That person maybe in my hometown. Prof, I don't know if you sampled anybody from Volta region, specifically Ketu South, but if you did, the NDC campaign that will show up there, and they will ask them the question, what is 24-hour economy? They can't answer it. That person will change his mind.
You're thinking your people in Ketu South don't understand things, but I come from a neighboring constituency, but we know quite a few things.
No, I'm not saying that they don't understand. I'm saying that the NDC rendition of 24-hour economy, they don't understand it.
Okay.
They know that what they're saying.
But we've dealt with the 24-hour economy, just so we don't open that matter.
No,
that matter is a closed book now.
I'm just telling you how the input at the time of polling will change 2 hours after the input is taken.
Great.
Right? So that the individual, once he hears Dr. Khalid on the TV struggling to tell us how they're going to create demand, which demand is managing the economy such that you have the money to build the roads that he's talking about, as though that they have not been in government before, that they haven't been able to construct the roads, and now say that somehow the road
I thought we were talking about polls. So, but that's fine.
No, I'm coming. This is part of the poll.
I actually wanted just brief thoughts, so that we get into the matter. I actually wanted very brief thoughts.
Still 1 minute. What I'm telling you is how the voter who is sampled view is changing over time.
So let's get into the sampling now. We are getting into the sampling. All right. So Prof, just briefly. So about the thoughts about the issues
but I think Richard is so fixated and obsessed with our 24-hour economy.
You're also going there.
It's become a nightmare for him. Such that when he even wanted to say 21st century, he said 24th. He almost said 24-hour economy. That's fair enough. I understand, Richard. You have sleepless nights in the 24-hour economy, but people really do understand it. Okay. So looking at it from this perspective, I mean, I've had the pain, and to my colleague, Professor Sarpong, I hope he understands me to have a clear academic...
so we're dealing with the issues first.
The issues first. Clear academic peer review of what has gone through. So for me, like when I looked at it, given that it was a press release, I expected it to be a bit granular, right? Straight to the point, broken down to the simple man's stand. But in reading it, I cringed a bit and felt that, okay, well, was this a regurgitation of a research methods pamphlet? I'm wondering which average Ghanaian really would understand by it's a press release or conference or whatever it is, because it's going to the press and it's going to the general public. And I start to read ingredients of issues of central limits theorem, law of statistical regularity, law of inertia of large samples, and all of that. So it's quite not very user-friendly here as far as polling is concerned, because polling is meant for public consumption. That said, again, the question of sampling and all of that comes in here. It's not just only about large sampling, right? Where was it taken? The locale is very important. Is it peri-urban? Is it urban? Is it rural? Because the thinking levels or the voter interest of the ingredient that attract one to vote in Accra is different to one in Zabzigutatali, right? So now, having said that, the question that is being posed is also very important. And the consistency of the question being posed in recurring polls is very important, because that becomes a central theme, right, to give you that consistent results that you want.
Very well.
And consistency is key here, right? Without taking any bias, I follow Mussa's polls because of consistency. And it's evident to all of us. I've seen that in the MPP's primaries and all of that, and the margins at which it is. Globally, polls are becoming unpopular, whether we like it or not. We speaking generally, because sometimes you look at the disparity in gaps among other issues that come to the fray, and they don't reflect. And the just ended American elections and that of the UK exemplifies that. But within our local setting, it's still very pertinent, much as it comes to challenges. So for example, let's say, in terms of posing a question, if a question goes like, do you support candidate X effort in developing the country? The response you'd get is different from what your needs are if you pose it, whether it's education, it's healthcare, whatsoever. That person or that voter may be interested in healthcare and education, but may not even vote for that particular candidate. And when you do that, they become what? Big disparity, right? That breaks disaggregation of response, and how to now harness that to clear that up becomes very difficult. The neutralization factor is lost because there's no consistent stream. And consistency in data and polling is a central theme and key. So now we talk about what in statistical terms and in polling terms, what we talk about late stage shifts in what we call voter sentiments. So now let's say you pose this question, do you support candidate X efforts in development, right? Then you come tomorrow and you pose a different question. Right? Do you support free SHS, or do you support free healthcare or health insurance?
You want consistency.
Right? That consistency is lost, and that data is not comparable because it's not consistent. But if you have, do you support candidate X in July? You come again in August. Do you support candidate X? That consistent stream is there, and that binds the work of your polls together, and that reflects in the accuracy or near accuracy that you want in polling.
Great.
So now to do all of this, these are the fundamental issues and the questions. So the questions that were being posed, the demographic it was being posed to, and the locale is very important.
Great. So Mussa, now let's deal with the issue of our methodology and approach, the sampling. What was the sample size? What research design did you use? 2,654 calls were placed, and 2,623 successfully responded to. I mean, take us through what your methodology and approach were.
If you look at what polling has undergone through the history, and we've learned a lot from the UK and the US polling system, you would notice that the more you do the poll, the more you learn about the best methodologies for polling. Methodology used in social research science or social science cannot be just opposed and dumped into political opinion polls. Absolutely not.
Political polling should be different from...
Yes, the way they do it is different from social science. Because social issues don't change that frequent. So you can do the survey in homes, and nobody feels threatened by telling you what he feels about certain things socially. But when it comes to politics, and even in our setting, if you identify a household as a household that voted for MPP or NDC, it's a problem. You know that already. So the way you deploy the sample, you must be very careful. How did we do this telephone polls? Over the years, we've interviewed over 200,000 voters across the country over so many issues.
So just to understand, if you say telephone polls, you sit in your office or someone?
I'm coming there. I'll come there.
Okay.
When we speak to them in the field, we ask them permission to take their phone numbers. We'll get to a point where instead of chasing them in the field, we'll call them over the telephone for their own convenience to speak to them about the issues that we have been talking to them about. And they agreed, and they give us their numbers. These numbers, we have grouped them as MPP, because we know those who say they are MPP, those who say they are NDC, floating voters, other parties, and those who don't disclose their party affiliation. In the US, when you register to vote as a voter, you indicate your party affiliation. So as a pollster, it is much easier to know who is MPP and who is NDC. And over these years, we have established a true percentage averagely of people who openly say they are MPP, those who openly say they are NDC, those who openly say they are floating voters, others and the rest. So our sampling first is to say that, okay, if over the time, MPP is 35%, we'll pick 35% of MPP voters from the system. So if you are interviewing 10,000 people, we'll take 3,500 MPP. NDC average 33%. So we'll take 30% of NDC. And then 20% of floating voters, 2 or 3% of the other parties, and 10% of those who don't disclose their party affiliation. Once we are done with that, but how do we settle on that 2006? What are the tools we use to agree that we want to do 2,600? Look, there are 18 million voters or 18.7 million voters in Ghana. The statistical tools available suggest that you find a confidence level you want to work with. And then the margin of error you want to entertain. These are things you, the pollster, determine. Using these variables, what sample size should you engage to make the research work a representative of that 18.7 million population? It is not somebody's whimsical decision, just choose any number. And also, look, if you believe that the polls are very tight, then you don't want to entertain larger margin of error. Then you increase your confidence level. So what you know from the polling guides you on your sampling. I would not go and interview large sample size. It comes with a cost. When I know the difference between the leader and then the follower is so huge that it makes nonsense margin of error. So once we do that, then we have put these numbers into a system. All the numbers who are MPP, about maybe 4,000 of them, maybe about 6,000 or so of various numbers in the different pots. Then the system we have in the global info will run through the telephone numbers and pick one MPP number and call it. But before we even do that, we say, okay, if we are interviewing 950 MPP voters, where should they come from? Which regions? We have a data saying that most of MPP supporters are in Ashanti region. And what percentage? Let's say 24%. So allow or allocate the 950, 24% of that 950 must go to Ashanti region. Followed by Greater Accra MPP. So we have this kind of raw percentage of how the regions contribute to each party's base. So we share the 950 to each of this region based on the record we have, with the average of the parties in those regions. The same thing for NDC, same thing for the floating voters, and the same thing for those who say, I support other parties, and those who don't disclose. So there are two stages. First, to assign the number sample based on party affiliation for these telephone polls, and then to further assign it again to the regions that contribute most to the party's base. Then we start placing calls randomly. We are able to place random calls because it is the best thing you do in polling. The randomness is very key. Why randomness is very key is that in the system of computing, you, the human being, have no control of the randomness. In the field, you are able to differentiate, be biased. Somebody looks nice, beautiful girl, you want to approach them. So there are so many things humanly goes wrong in the field. But on the telephone, you remove all these things from telephone. And the person is comfortable at home. Look, what they tell us over the phone is not what they tell us in the field. Absolutely confident. They tell you everything. So besides we putting X, Y, Z there, we hear a lot more. Because the person is at home, relaxed, not on the street. So these are the kind of things we do and then we publish everything, including methodology, confidence level, margin of error.
So your margin of error for this was what?
1.8, something 1.86.
1.86, okay. Yes. I see. And we didn't see, did you have a projected turnout? did you look at? Because
you see, that's the difference. This is not our, what do we call, predictions.
Okay.
These are polls. Our predictions would involve modeling.
Okay.
Taking these numbers averagely, running them through the model, using our average turnout that we have done over the years. We know the average for every region. For every constituency we've been to, we know the averages. We're not going to use any finger in the air averages. It is based on facts that we have.
I see.
And then we would allocate those who say I'm undecided to the candidates based on what they've told us earlier on.
Okay, great. Prof, so I know you sampled some 99,000 people. Tell us about your sampling and your research methodology, how you got your respondent category and all of that.
Right. Selorm, there are two types of population. There are population whose characteristics are similar. We call them homogeneous population, and there are those that have characteristics that are dissimilar. We call them heterogeneous population. In fact, we even have a third class of population called hard to reach population, but I mean, that is not in discussion. If you want to think about the concept of sampling, you think of it in the case of a uniform population or a homogeneous population, and then you think of it in the other side, heterogeneous population. If you take homogeneous population, sincerely, you don't need much sample size to draw your conclusions because, for example, there is a soup on fire. You want to know whether the salt content or the pepper content is fine. And because the soup is a uniform solution, you do not need to drink all the soup or increase the number of ladles you take before you can understand perhaps the pepper or whatever content in it. That is when the population is uniform. If you are dealing with a heterogeneous population and an opinion pool, and we know the nature of opinions are extremely volatile. There are very consistent opined persons who for one event may change their mind or whatsoever. The requirement is that you increase the sample size. In fact, the largest sample size you can ever get to is the size of the population, and that one is a census. I'm not saying we should get to 18 million, no. But then the size of the sample, once it is increasing, increasing from one state to the other, the law says that the outcome begins to mimic the outcome of the general population. And
so the more the sample size, the closer it is to reality.
This has been a basic principle that wouldn't be disproved by anybody. I am not sure anybody in the name of whatever, in the name of God, would want to disprove this and undermine the fact that sample size doesn't matter. Now, number two, you may choose to use plugins or maybe online sample size estimators. But those online estimators that we have backstage or at the back end some algorithms or formulas or formulae that brought them to existence. And there is one that will tell you that if the population is homogeneous, you will need to estimate a minimum sample size. So I can grant any other plugin that will just ask you, provide for me your confidence interval. Okay, provide for me your margin of error. And I'll estimate to you the sample size you may need to use to represent. I can grant that. That is basic. It's plenty on Google. But if you care to estimate, or you are a professor and you know what you are doing, you can estimate it and get the minimum sample size for that particular population. And again, we can do that in class if there is the need. But I mean, I don't want us to make it look like, for those who are watching, the best way to estimate a sample size is to get the plugins, identify your own confidence interval, narrate or maybe state your allowable margin of errors, and what the computer brings you is what you go by. There is a formula, n minimum equals a z-score squared under or subscript p, and that p is a very serious parameter. A2 bracket 1 minus p underline or subscript the margin of error. So that P is what is missing in the plug-in. And if you want to consider that P, then you are interested in, for this heterogeneous population, what should be my minimum sample size. If you are not interested in minimum sample size, of course, sampling is simply selecting some part of the whole. But if you admit heterogeneity and you want to go with the minimum sample size, what I'm saying is that there is that estimable equation or algorithm there you can also apply yourself to. And after you have gotten that minimum, sample size, then the basic principle you stated came in. Even with that minimum, you can still decide if there is time and resources to increase the sample size. And the more you increase, the more stable, the more reliable, the more reflective the outcomes will be with respect to the population.
Great. I see respondent category. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, so for what I did, and again, we have to, I take the entire Ghana as one population, all right? But we've been given an idea of the subsamples we have in the population. And for me, the subsamples we have is 276, not 16, because even the 16 still have subsamples under them. So I would take the global subsamples, 76.
Yeah.
All right. And there is a law, the central limits theorem my brother PhD spoke to. In fact, I agree with him. Somebody prompted me that all those long lecture was unnecessary in a press conference. Yes, I agree with him 100%. But I wanted, perhaps for conversation's sake, people should read the basis underpinning the sampling so that conversations will be guided within those scope. And I'm saying that the central limits theorem will require you to pay attention to the various subsamples of the population in your sampling. Then the inertia of large samples will draw your attention to the fact that even after minimum sample and sharing it onto all the subsamples, you still need to increase to the best that you can, because the larger the better. And then the statistical regularity will tell you that outcomes from larger samples who paid attention to central limits theorem is likely to be more stable and reliable and reflective of the population than those that did not take into consideration those ones. That is why I took my time to go through that. And the selection of even the communities where visitations were done was also scientific. All right, so we try our best to get a solid...
So I'm interested in the respondent category, for example. So we see artisans, chief farmer, clergy, religious leaders, commercial driver, community member, etc., etc., nurse, doctor, health workers, tailors, dressmakers. You know, how did you come by this?
Right. So we tried in our meeting with my team before we went out. We tried to, and I said we've done pilot from 1st October before we started the main work on the 16th of October. What we tried to do with the pilots that we were doing was to identify what we termed as elevated respondents. Respondents who share views that can be superimposed or extended to people of their like. And so we came up with this list, came back, we have to upgrade the list because of some of the additional category of elevated respondents that we got, and we felt this was exhaustive to go out.
Okay, so tailors, dressmakers, hairdressers, and barbers, 10,849 of them. That's quite a huge number. So my question is, was it that it was representative of the general population that we have such numbers of these category of persons, or, I mean, what exactly? Nurse, doctor, health workers, about 3,096 of them you sampled. Farmers, 17,678 of them. You know, what? Just explain that to us.
Yeah, so lawyer, what we did was that we selected the communities. And then once you enter into the community selected and you are cleared by the GPS setup we were using, you have to look for those elevated respondents within the community. When you have exhausted that, then you top up your numbers with any community member. But the key requirements were the clergymen, the traditional leaders, teachers or educational workers, those master craftsmen, and the list that we have.
And you said yes, go ahead.
Yes, so that is how we did. So it's the selection of the community that will tell in this constituency which communities we should visit. And my brother asked of K2 South, all right? And we visited communities like Alikope, Pedido. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing it well. Avoime, Awakome, Denu, Fihokope, Aplao, Hidranawo, Kliko, Wakadeji. These are the communities we visited in Ketu South as a constituency. We can mention Ketu North. Ketu North, communities like Dalame, Fiagbedu, Kasu, Plilekope, Penyi, Teziwu, Weta, Adagbledu, Weta. Sorry about that.
Adagbledu.
Yes. Some of you, pardon me about
that's my constituency or my home constituency. Tajewu and all those places. Yes. So yes. Yeah. But I wanted some understanding of the elevated respondents. You say that their views are superimposed on the others. How is that?
It's superimposable. What I'm saying is that if I speak to master craftsmen in this area, I can understand those artisans in the area and their sentiments. Do you get it?
Great.
By speaking to some of them, you can, and I have not superimposed yet, only that I wanted a fair reflection of those category of respondents and not just any voter at all. Of course, these people are also voters, but for purposes of trying to infer from the sample onto the population, you must as well deepen the capacity of the respondent so that it has some inherent benefit on your inference.
I see. So we see a voter turnout of 81.4%. So if we achieve this voter turnout, that's when your result or your prediction will come into reality or will become the case. But 81.4% is quite a huge turnout. I mean, the historical data we have in the year 2000, 61.74, 2004, which is the highest, 85.6, which is an outlier really. 2008, 69.52, 2008 runoff, 72.9, 2012, 79.43, 2016, 68.62, 2020, 78.89. You know, that is 81.4 appears quite high. And if we have to achieve this turnout in order to get this result, I mean, we may not get this result then because this turnout could be highly unachievable.
Right. So this is an estimation. When you ask about those who voted in 2020 and you ask those who would be voting in 2024, it gives you an estimation. And that is the estimation we have put there. And I agree with you. It may come down, it may go up. But what we have realized in my analysis is that turnout would have an effect on the ultimate outcome of 2024 election. And so scenario one, if we take 2020, the 79% one, we have a resource. With my estimated resource, my estimated turnout, this is the resource. And then you can decide in my scenario 3, which are pairings that I'm doing. My estimate 3 is seeking to estimate the highest, you can say unimaginable or imaginable turnout possible. And I put it at 85.6. I know it is extreme, but just to try and build a trend that from 2020 turnout 79% to my estimated turnout 81.4 to the estimated, and mind you, whereas presidential was doing 79% in 2020, parliamentary was doing 81.3% in the same 2020. What it meant was that some people went to the polling station but only took interest in the parliamentary election and ignored the presidential election. So we can estimate the 2020 turnout properly. We are not far from saying it can be 81.3. Only that the people who went there, 81.3, some decided not to take interest in the presidential. But I agree with you. Okay. These estimates I am saying are there to draw the attention of users of elections research outcomes to the fact that as part of the work they are doing, they should try and urge people, mobilize people to go out and vote. It is not enough to say, I've campaigned much, I've done this. If the people don't go out to vote, turnout has an effect on the ultimate outcome.
Okay, so this is scenario 1. We don't know what scenario 2 is, scenario 3 is, scenario 4 is. But I'll come back to you so you help us appreciate what the various scenarios may be. But Prof. Khalid...
Yes, but before you go quickly, you go, I mentioned that Scenario 1 is if we take 2020 as
the base.
A benchmark.
Okay.
And then scenario 2 is my estimated. And because it is my report, that is why I'm putting my estimated. And the scenario 3 was the highest possible ever. That one was arbitrarily estimated, 85 point something. As for the 81.4, that one is based on my question to them in respect of whether they voted, percentage who voted 2020, and percentage that will be voting in 2024. All right.
Okay, great. I'll take a short break now, but Prof will want to leave because he has to hit the campaign trail. Yeah. So I'll take his views on this quickly. I'll take a break and come around to take the rest of the reactions. Yes, so Prof,
okay.
you had the two sides on the
sampling. Yeah, thank you very much. I wish the Cape Coast Airport was ready. If it was ready, I would have stayed throughout and then just fly in.
You have to vote for Bamia for that to be ready.
Nothing is going to happen.
You have to vote for Bamia.
No. Well, I mean, it's I'm listening to Smart. I cringe a bit because now I'm torn between: is this a survey or a poll? The line of questioning, the depth, the turnaround. I'm not too sure, so I think that it ought to be communicated very well. I don't know what something has been missing here as far as the distinction of whether a survey or a poll, because there's a clear distinction between a survey and a poll, as Mussa would allude to. So now I tend to look at, I'm basing my stuff, and as I said, it's going to be more of an academic review as far as it's concerned as we're doing public engagement. So to look at the main reason Smart puts together, he says to provide the agent needed third-party feedback to political actors who mostly may be engulfed in campaigning and voter mobilization.
More or less, it's assisting you guys to.
No, but we don't jump on the grounds in a vacuum. We run polls.
Supplementing what your poll
we run polls. It feeds into how we shape it among other issues. So there's no novelty to this, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if it was going to be advertised as a novelty whatsoever because we are guided by polls before we even hit the ground.
That's why we call it third party to what you
third party. Sometimes we outsource. People like Mussa, we consult them, right? We even have external internationally, and we have our own internal. So we just don't run it all fly blind, if I put it that way. So I don't know the novelty coming in here. Then two, to demonstrate that politics has in recent times become more scientific than operational. Politics has always been scientific, regardless. Right? The operationality of it
is become increasingly scientific.
Even polling is operationalization of politics. Why do you poll? To poll is a massive operation. Right? So I start to look at these things, then it makes me. Then it goes to say element of quality election research. Then it says, because of the proliferation of polls in recent times, some of which are strangely released weekly. So for a pollster to have concern to say that strangely or polls are strangely released weekly is worrying. So what's the mindset behind the polls? What's the appreciation of polls here? Look, even when people are voting, polls are still conducted. Right? Yes, you're tracking. So if you say strangely released on a weekly basis, me sitting here, I need polls every minute of the way. Quick turnaround, I need to be fed with polls to know what is happening, what's the changing perception of the average voter. Has my impact been felt? Which is why I know, and Richard does not know, that my 24-hour economy is resonating with the Ghanaian populace. It's through the quick around and turnaround polls that I'm receiving from different people, juxtaposing that, triangulating, right, to get off any bias. Because internally, yes, I know my people may bring me data, but I know that they have their own biases, right? So if I contract Mussa to give me a poll, I'd contract this. So if I'm getting weekly polls, it should be applauded. Not spoken about in disparaging terms as far as polling is concerned. Strangely, release weekly polls, that's quite interesting coming from a pollster. I found that very interesting. How is that strange? That should be encouraged because that is needed. So, I mean, I did a few picks, as I said, but as I've told you,
so just before you go, so the general, the conclusion of it is that 49.1% for Bawumia, 45.8% for Mahama, which means that your candidate is trailing.
Not trailing in what sense? Because we have not, we've disconstructed this before you. So what it tells you is that the accumulation of it, and he has shown the extrapolation he has made, but not collecting data, and that is more than an 80%. You put that into a poll or a survey to get that results. But even look at the margins, right? In any stark democracy, it is difficult, scientifically and practical, to have such a margin. between a main political party and an opposition party that are front runners in an election. Statistically, I'm yet to be convinced on that front.
Great. We'll take a short break. That was Prof. Sarif Mahmood Khalid, who has to take leave of us because he has to go on the field. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll hear from Richard Ahiagba, we'll hear from Franklin Kujo, and then we'll talk to Mussa and Prof. Smart Sarpong again. Don't go away. This is a big issue.
Mommy, I can't believe I swallowed the lies the MPP told us about John Mahama.
My dear, as for those people, they have been telling lies since Kwame Nkrumah's time. They accuse Kwame Nkrumah of wasting money on the Akosombo Dam.
Hey! Mama, the MPP told Ghanaians that John Mahama owns hotels and ships in Dubai. Yet, they have been in power for 8 painful years and haven't been able to prove any of those lies. I'm not surprised though that John Mahama is still working a free man.
Kuma, even the journalists who were used to peddle these lies have come to apologize. Yet, these MPP people are still telling these same lies in 2024.
Hey.
What a bunch of wicked liars.
You know, their own special prosecutor has come to clear John Mahama of the Airbus scandal, just like Shraj cleared him of the Ford bride lie. John Mahama is squeaky clean.
Now we know the truth, and the truth has set us free. Surely, as the Lord liveth, this time lies will not win.
No way.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama.
333.
The Situation All White Christmas Party is back! This Christmas Eve, forget the usual and step into a celebration like none other. The Situation All White Christmas Party is taking over the city with music, magic, and memories waiting to be made. Think cozy vibes, electric beats, and the perfect blend of festive cheer and wild energy all in one space. Date 24th December 2024. Venue The Underbridge, East Legon. Time 8 p.m. Dress code, it's an all-white affair. Come and dance like nobody's watching. Sip, mingle, make merry, and unwrap the ultimate Christmas Eve experience. Dress to impress, bring your holiday spirit, and let's make the Situation All White Christmas Party unforgettable. Call 0205-973-973 for table reservations and get ready to party. It's going to be lit at the Underbridge. The Situation All White Christmas Party 2024 is powered by Channel 1 TV with support from 97.3 City FM and proudly sponsored by Orica Ghana, sole distributors of Carlsberg and King's Beer.
John, mema wakwaba.
Yeah, say.
Alaji, mema wakwaba.
Yeah.
John, I had a bro, one on them.
I really am a Ghana and Tina Menamo, and then break a crane Mijano. Don't know anything about Masaba.
Alaji, I had a bro.
Yo, Medasi. Moamonim, Tamana, Amawa, which you Mumiana, and Bobo and a Kakra. As I say, dear, my crowd say, me person me be warino. Namiko CSL. Nami man sign Jinan and Nasubu, no your crab.
Yo, I was not for, yes, Empa. Yo, I'm a Ghana. What's wrong?
Mean to me, ain't son, cheap. Your bread baby, I would have a fair way. I'm on a wheat. There be meant to me beyond forward ever, backwards never.
John, Okoya would me very fast. I would say a come do so. Trap me none of me. Yeah, 3 years such as ya buyer. Come on your school uncle. And I say, ya on my essay.
I say, my sister, be show ball. Sahu machi 2 o'clock okra. Meko band, the Makwa Iska, Eddie Abraham Ghana, Nama Bonigretri, I'm not starting Kokon Kete. Hey!
Akunta, you are still incompetent.
2 persons outside him, Mamma Bravo, and 2 chachats is aviator. There be Emma so.
Alhaji has also promised us jobs through digitalization. Ejimambe Busu say.
Alhaji deɛ metene so a ne ma sɔre emiri bi a meka ne abɛsa no otimi tɔ kanea light ɛwɔ ni phone so ɛma me ba bi a wɔnam bia yo amagana ɛnya me ne mɛware ama wo Alhaji ni John so ni wa choose
no ababa say eye Alhaji number 1.
Alhaji number one.
Esoro.
Yeah, welcome back. This is a big issue. We're discussing the polls. 2 polls came out this week, one from the Global Info Analytics and one from Professor Sarpong, who is an associate professor of statistics, also a research design and data management consultant. We've had the 2 pollsters speak. Results not quite similar, projections quite different, but the real poll is on December 7, and by 8th, 9th of December, we'll know who is won. Let me speak to Richard Ahiagba, who is a key participant or player in this polling thing, and also an interested party. Richard, you've had the 2 pollsters, and you've looked at their results.
Salom, quick one if you can. Just
okay, so that's Prof, right? Okay, Prof. Okay, quick one.
Yes, Prof, yes. It's unfortunate my professor brother is gone, but
yes.
I mean, his last comment was to the effect that if my outcome is showing a 3.3% lead, it was strange in a republic, in a system like ours. I don't know what his comment will be for my brother Mussa's one that is showing a 12 percentage point lead. So let's be fair to the analysis we are doing, so that for the purposes of the people watching us, we will not skew the discussion.
Point well made, yes. I think we also had an issue with you saying that strangely polls come out weekly, and all of that, yes. Because we know in the US, polls come out even on daily basis.
Selorm, I agree. Selorm, I agree. Let me touch on that 1 second. You see, when polling is coming and it is intended to update the general public on the dynamics on human minds as the election day approaches, is different from a polling that is seeking to generalize and call out the possible outcome of the general election. And then, for example, if, I don't know, my brother Mussa, I've not watched you say it orally, but I've read in the news that you said if your prediction doesn't come through, perhaps they should take your life, something. I read something like that. You see, then that makes it your prediction. Okay, and that predictions are not done like every week. That's what I meant. I don't know whether the grammar or the way I put it.
Okay, so you said because of the proliferation of polls in recent times, some of which are strangely released weekly here in Ghana, I would clarify a few elements of quality research for easy identification. That's how you put it.
Absolutely. So that if it is just an updates can be done daily, like my professor brother said. But if it is attached, if the update goes with a strong indication to the fact that this is what is going to happen, then it means it is no more an update. Then it means it is like so for me, if not for my brother saying he's here to do his prediction, I would have thought that that was easy. And then to ask my professor friend who is gone, that if my 3.3% gap is strange, what would be his comment?
I'm sure he's listening, so maybe he will send a response back.
I'll meet him. I'll see him later backstage.
I'm sure. Yes. So Franklin,
let me quickly address.
Okay, one second here.
Oh, no. I thought you were coming to me.
No. He said he wanted to make a quick one. Yes.
Look, we have not.
Richard, I'm coming to you.
We have not released our predictions. No.
Okay, but will you release predictions?
Of course, we come with predictions.
When will you do that?
All that we're doing is polling. We are updating.
Okay.
It's not predictions.
Okay.
So I mean, for Mr. Sarpong to say that, I mean, it was a bit, below the belt. I mean,
So you thought you were the one being attacked in the
No. It's direct. I mean, this is English language. If you really know where the attack is coming from, we're not doing poll every week as a prediction. Nobody does that. Polls are updating to see where the races are. we have said time and time again that our predictions will come on the 28th of November.
28th of November.
And
That's next week.
Yes. So I mean, yeah.
Okay, great. Richard, yes, we are with you now. You've heard the two posters speak. As a politician on the ground, what do you pick from these?
Well, thank you very much. I think Mussa Dankwa will indulge me because I have a massive reservation for his work. But that is, and I've made this known, and it's no secret. But then when he's talking about this particular poll, which he makes the point that is a telephone poll, and he sought to make create the impression that telephone polls are more reliable than in-person poll, that is just not right. There's no literature that supports that position. He's just making it up. That's not. It's rather that the telephone research is less reliable. And that point must be made and made very strongly. The fact that he uses it does not make it the fact of it being better than that. But I want to also find out, when he was talking, the response rate, for that poll, and the sample size is about 2,000 or something, he said.
2,600.
600, and he has some construction of a system within which people were called randomly and all of that. What is the response rate of that survey? Because really, when you look at 99%. Telephone, sorry, did you say anything?
Isn't there? It's 99% success rate. 2,654 calls were placed, and then 2,623 successfully responded to.
Okay, so the sample size was, so everybody was called just once, and they answered, or they had to be called multiple times?
No, once, he says.
That's interesting. But yes, so that's also a key factor for me to actually see. But then the key point that I want to make on his returns, and it's very instructive that now he says this is not his prediction, because the way he presents the data, it doesn't present it as an update. He presents it as his prediction, as what will happen. And so somehow now he's tracking back to say that this is not a prediction, and so therefore an update. So I think that he needs to make that point more forcefully than the numbers he's putting out, because he's misled a lot of people to think that what he's putting out is a prediction. And I think that it's instructive that position.
If you call it a tracking, would that make any difference?
Absolutely. It's a tracking.
If you call it a tracking, because the title or the headline is National Phone Tracking Poll 2024 Presidential Election. So if you call it tracking, will it make any difference?
But you can call it what you want to call it, but how you present it to get a conclusive position of what the outcome will be. Because if you're saying that the state of the race is different from the outcome that you're putting out there, that this is what we believe will be the outcome of the election, but somehow the consumption of his polls is not what he is saying here in the studio, to say that it was just a tracking poll, which people will take with a pinch of salt, because then it means that that will change in a matter of time, because it is progressive. And then the next time it does it, it might change in that order. And also the point about consistency. I have massive reservation to my brother Mussa Dankwa's work, because he doesn't have that consistency. He doesn't have any standing when it comes to predicting elections in this country. That in terms of general election, to want to take his work seriously. I think that Professor Sarpong's work, given how long he has done this is not his first time wading into a national election. So I'm more likely to take his more rigorous approach to data sampling and sample size more seriously. And then the outcome that he's putting out there pretty much shows that perhaps the race is in a place where all of us would probably relate to in a manner. If you look at what happened in 2008, for example, and how close we know the race is, his projections here for me seems one that I can take fairly seriously, because you have a situation where not one of the candidates have an outright path or more or less is deemed to run away with the election as it stands. And that is more reflective of the state of affairs, in my view, than the suggestions from Mussa Dankwa, which seem, in my view, to parrot an NDC narrative. And you saw that. Oh, I'm coming. Oh, I know Franklin doesn't like that, but
no. But I'm just curious. Richard, are you saying that because Mussa doesn't favor your party or favor what you won't take it seriously, and because Prof's favors you find nothing wrong at all with it? You don't see. You are a research person, so the process is adopted is perfect as far as you're concerned. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. That's not what I said. I was making a reference to Prof's finding based on how reflective it is in terms of the sampling, the sample size, and the details that he went to in terms of the sampling technique to ensure that the sample population is using is reflective of the larger population. And it's a fact in research that the larger the sample, the more confidence you can have in the estimates that you'll find at the end of it. So that's a trite knowledge. But I was saying that Mussa Dankwa's finding in this telephone poll, which is less reliable, is a much smaller sample. He's speaking to the same crowd that he's been speaking to. There's no new, fresh input. And so that cannot be said to be a prediction. It's a tracking, but he doesn't present it as a tracking position. And so that is not even in the same league as Professor Sarpong's finding, which is more predictive, which is more suggestive of what people are likely to do on December 7th. So we're actually comparing apples and oranges if we put the two side by side, because what we have now learned, which is not the case when he puts it out. He tries to create the impression that this is predictive, but now he says that it's not predictive, it's tracking. That's fine. We're saying so on the basis of that, his poll, we should probably put in on one side and focus on what was presented by Prof. Sarpong and look at how reflective that is of the state of affairs of the country at this point going into the election. But when I say about NDC, all I'm saying is that, and it's a known position that I've held. I appreciate research. I love research. I think research is useful. But what I'm saying about Mussa Dankwa is that he is part of a project to lead to a certain outcome. And that's how come whatever he says, I'm not going to take it, and see how his position is shifting now from a predictive to this and that, all of that.
No, I think it's always been a tracking thing. So sometimes you can put out information, but people interpret or see it differently. I mean, he cannot control that.
Are you the one who is putting the information out? Must be clear what you're putting out.
But he said, I just read to you that the title of it is National Tracking Poll.
I'm not disputing that, but why was it necessary now for him to say that is not his prediction, that his prediction will come? It is important because the public who is consuming that information is consuming it without that detail. And so today we are sitting here comparing a tracking poll with a predictive poll. That for me is a problem, because you are comparing apples and oranges. He needs to be clear in what he's comparing. So when he came to the studio, he said, well, yeah, this is predictive and this is tracking. So we know that we are comparing two different things.
I see. His prediction will come on the 28th November. So keep your
comparing apples and oranges on
airwaves unclogged, and you hear his prediction.
We shouldn't be comparing that. But Selorm, let me make the last point.
Okay.
The last
Richard is okay.
Franklin is not the Franklin, let me hear you now. Now that you've overruled
America, you are controlling the program in Ghana.
Now that you've overruled Richard, let me hear you speak. Yeah, so you had a two posters. What's your takeaway?
First of all, look, this is an intellectual exercise, and I don't think we should be describing each other's work in a particularly negative manner. I don't think there's any fraudulent pool. Just as I don't think anybody, the two gentlemen have not set out to basically deceive the entire populace. We may have issues about how the whatever sampling they may have done, and that's critique, and it's important that we do that. Even our own pulse statement that we do, we do pulse, we use AI to crawl a sentiment. We'll be publishing the last one. We stopped briefly because we realized some of the parties were buying robots, so they were pushing robots, and so we detected it and stopped. But now we've been able to mask how do you call it?
Unmask. Okay.
Mask the robot. So come out with the last one. Which, by the way, so my point is, look, the sampling techniques are interesting. I mean, it's also possible that if Mussa said he did 2,600 or 2,400, it's not necessarily so wrong. But of course, if he did 10,000, 90,000, it's also not necessarily that wrong. Of course, it gets a better representation. As always, as I was saying to Prof. Sarpong not long ago, I think it would be interesting if we were able to statistically gauge, properly represent the biases of people, because that way, because this elections are always about what people preferences, right? So it's rare that you find people just answering you because they don't have an interest in the election. So maybe we should take our time and look at that. It's difficult, but we can do that. If we are able to balance at least 50% of potential, because we need to do a bit of research on the people you're also working with anyway. And I think to that extent, Sarpong seems to be a little bit on the upside if what he says he actually did, as in going to an area, looking at the backgrounds of these people, and then before sampling them. And I think Mussa has done that in the past as well. I've read some of your reports where you typically list the people that were represented. I think it's useful, but I would think clearly that the best approach really is to gauge them based on their party position, and it's easy to do this anyway. Yes. So next time, let's do that. That way, you're able to, your confidence level will be really, really high. But having said that, look, this election is going to be tough, and I suspect that the two parties, when it started, look, clearly the MPP they were see, they didn't know what they were going to do, but now they have been motivated because they feel that it's possible, right? It is possible that the NDC now feels that, look, we need to double up our steps because they'll have to feed on all the other polls. Hold on, leave me alone.
I'm saying just has always been possible.
Let me finish. So you realize that the NDC seems to be drawing its strength from the varied international data, not just opinions, but even local. The Afrobarometers, even the NCC's whole polling and all the things they did. These are representative of how Ghanaians feel. And I think that the battle is going to be really, really fought closer to it's going to be close in terms of the battling. But at this stage, look, it will be totally interesting. And I wish that the people are punished because of the way they handle the economy. I mean, I see, this is where I sit.
That's your prediction.
Really, frankly, that's
calling
no
the election
analysis. So you have taken a position.
Yeah, but even John had issues, right? People remember him for some issues he had in the economy. So I'm just saying that. But for me, I think that the economic question, and maybe this is my bias, I strongly suspect that the current government has not done well on the economy and they've not managed the economy. And to that extent, they should be able to answer. If they can answer questions, elections are interesting in this part of the world.
Very well.
If they can come out, Bamia can come out and say, look, I think I want to deal with the e-levy right now. E-levy, no more, we are not paying. COVID, no more, we are not paying. Rather than wait until we are all, until the wings.
Very well, frankly. So, Prof. Sarpong, indulge me, Richard. So, we see the projected, and very quick. We see the projected parliamentary results. MPP 128, as in settled, and likely MPP 41. NDC 92 settled, and likely NDC 15. That's quite a huge one. I mean, that's quite a huge one. That's wiping out the NDC entirely, actually, from Parliament. How do we get? Of course, I know your data will show that, but how did you get there?
Yeah, so of course, once I visited all 276 constituencies, I wouldn't just go to presidential and ignore parliamentary. So again, like I mentioned, your Ketu North for you and other places, these were sentiments of the people we took in respect of the parliamentary as well.
Very well.
In fact, in the parliamentary and the presidential, we did two things. Apart from examining the voting pattern of the places we visited, we also asked the various communities whether the voting pattern has changed. Changed or not, we gave them a sample of the ballot paper for them to vote. And so we are assessing both early voting results and then the pattern of change as suggested by the people within the communities themselves to balance out these numbers. And let me end by saying historically, lawyer, the NPP has more safe seats than the NDC historically. You check. Even this hung parliament, and in this hung parliament, the NPP had more safe seats than the NDC. So again, literature will tell you it is a likely outcome. And then beyond the literature, I have visited all 276 constituencies, and this is as I share with the general public.
Great.
I don't say, in the middle there, I would say 56 constituencies are up for grabs. Up for grabs. Great. That's fine.
Okay. So, Mussa, you have also done some work, parliamentary work, but I'm interested in knowing what your polls tell you. So, a place like Adenta.
No, let me address some of the issues.
Okay, because we're running out of time. So quickly, yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, people can choose what they want to believe in the polls. We should do quarterly tracking poll in the field. It's always been clear. It's not for me to tell Ahangba what tracking means in English. In this one, we've been tracking the polls weekly. We've said so tracking poll. It's not prediction. So, I mean, people should learn
really
and understand that.
Your prediction.
And then secondly, we're going to revisit our prediction. That is based on our understanding of all the numbers and where we think the numbers will go.
Great. So the parliamentary, I mean, huge numbers put out by Prof. But you've been doing some parliamentary work too. Yes. But in your case, I want you to help us as we are concluding.
I will say that
a place like Adenta, how does it
NDC will win majority in parliament.
Prof, I'll come to you on yours as well. Lejokuku.
Look, I said NDC. I don't want to specific target certain constituencies because of certain issues we have.
No, but these are issues. These are constituencies we are interested in.
We are saying that NDC will have majority in parliament.
But you don't want to speak to the specific.
No, because as a company, we have a period that we don't specifically mention certain constituencies. Okay. We're in that period.
All right. Prof, what do you also say? Some of the key constituencies I've mentioned, Adenta, Lejokuku, and those places.
In fact, like my ultimate results will tell you for Greater Accra, the NDC is leading with some good percentage lead in the Greater Accra. And that will reflect on the number of parliamentary seats. So for Greater Accra, like you can see in my data, I don't know whether you have the regional breakdowns, but in Greater Accra, you can see there is a likelihood that the NDC would have a strong majority in terms of parliamentary seats.
What about Central?
Region,
how about Central?
Central NPP would have a lead in parliamentary seats. One thing interesting about Central and Bono and Ahafo and those areas is that, you see, Central region, whereas NDC was winning 13 seats in the last election, 9 of the 13 seats were won, but with presidential won by the NPP. So that is historic. And then we have visited all 23 constituencies in Central region, which is current. And when you match the way I built my question, the voting pattern, the person likely to be voted, and then even the early voting, when you match all these 3 patterns, I can conclude that in terms of votes in Central region, MPP is going to get higher than, parliamentary seats in Central region, MPP is going to get higher than the NDC.
Very well. Richard and Franklin, thanks so much. I mean, we've run out of time, and I think the point has been made.
Richard wanted to say something.
Richard has been on. Richard, we give you a lot of time. I mean, we've run out of time.
Lawyer,
yes, let me hear Prof. Yes, Prof, yes.
Lawyer, I'm speaking to you from Ghana. I'm told people are saying, after releasing my report, I've flown out of the country. I'm not at Franklin's place. Please.
No, I've not heard that one. Of course, you're in Ghana. I've not heard that one. All right, thanks so much. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks to my Professor Smart Sarpong, Senior Lecturer, Kumasi Technical University, Mussa Dankwa, Executive Director, Global Info Analytics, Richard Ahiagba of the MPP, Sharif Mahmoud Khalid, Doctor, NDC, and Franklin Kujo, President in Mani Africa. Thanks so much for doing the listening. My name is Selorm Adonoo. Have a